The first sequence this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 951 Great Victory. Before Ren Xiaosu set out, he pulled Ji Xiang aside to whisper something, and Wang Yun heard the word about septic tank. So, at that time, Wang Yun vaguely guessed what Ren Xiaosu might do. The tunnel and the septic tank are linked together, which makes it difficult for people to have any good associations. However, even if everyone has some psychological preparation, when this indescribable scene appears, everyone still feels a little cruel. Seeing the shit level of the septic tank dropping rapidly, it only took 5 minutes for the septic tank to be half empty. P5092 was silent. He had studied military affairs for more than 10 years, but this was the first time he saw someone do such a thing on the battlefield. It must be said that what Ren Xiaosu did on the battlefield was really that he would do anything to win. At this time, Zoan Mountain once again ushered in the attack of the main force of the Expeditionary Corps. The barbarians rushed over from the mountains and fields, and it seemed that they wanted to cooperate with the barbarian masters underground to attack from inside and outside. But they didn't know what cruel things their masters were experiencing. Wang Yun put himself in someone else's shoes and thought about it. Imagine if someone used this method against him, and then his scalp would go numb. Ren Xiaosu asked Sun Yu, "Where are the barbarians underground?" "Over there, they are moving quickly. I expect them to meet within a minute," Sun Yu said after a pause. He really didn't want to say it clearly because it was a bit disgusting. Ren Xiaosu looked at Ji Xiang, and then pointed to a place, right there, cut off their retreat and leave a vent behind them. "Okay," Ji Xiang nodded. At this moment, everyone understood that Ren Xiaosu had never intended to let these barbarians leave from the beginning. In the tunnel, Anatoly, who was in front of the team, suddenly said, "I smell a strange smell." Anatoly was the crazy bear in this team of experts who was responsible for tracking Ren Xiaosu by smell. As soon as he finished speaking, the barbarians behind him said unhappily, "Even if we don't have your sense of smell, we can smell this strange smell." As they spoke, the barbarians' eyes were choked out. They were not crying because they were sad, but because the smell was too pungent and very addictive. "Retreat! Retreat!" Anatoly suddenly roared. Unlike what they imagined, the enemy did not plant bombs in the tunnel, but used more despicable means. However, when they wanted to turn around and return from the passage behind them, they were shocked to find that the road behind them had been closed, leaving only a thigh-thick exhaust hole. Here, Ren Xiaosu asked Ji Xiang to leave such a hole purely for those indescribable things, which would be more convenient to pour in. When the barbarians found that the road behind them had been completely closed, they had already begun to be swallowed by the yellow torrent. A barbarian immediately commanded, "Break through the top of the tunnel. We are very close to the ground now, so we should be able to break through the ground." Gulu gulu. The other barbarians almost vomited when they saw the drowning sound coming out of their comrade's mouth. However, they were not much better. A barbarian saw that the yellow torrent had already flooded over his thighs, and immediately hit the soil above his head with all his strength. With just one punch, the soil layer was actually somewhat loose. "Hit the soil above your head together." Gulu gulu. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu and others were standing on the defensive position and quietly observing the main force of the Expeditionary Corps approaching quickly. P5092 looked through a military telescope and suddenly became excited. This time, the main force of the barbarians seems to have come very hastily, and even the formation is not neat. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. Under normal circumstances, even if the barbarians came to attack the defensive position, they would be very methodical. But now, in order to race against time, the other side cooperated with the barbarian masters in the tunnel, and they actually didn't care about the rules and only wanted to attack the defensive position at full speed. This leaves a lot of loopholes. P5092 immediately issued a combat order, "Don't rush this time, let them get closer, I want to eat this unit directly today." After saying that, P5092 looked at Ren Xiaosu, "Young Marshal, this is the opportunity you created for the defensive position." "Ahem, keep a low profile," Ren Xiaosu said. As he spoke, the main force of the Expeditionary Corps was about to arrive in front of the battle, but the officers of this main force were a little confused. Did they say that they would cooperate with the outside? Why did the Central Plains people's defensive position seem to be silent? Could it be that their own masters failed? No, he didn't hear any explosions or gunshots before. He was very clear about the strength of those masters. It didn't make sense for them to be killed silently by the Central Plains people. Yes, these masters might be waiting for them to attack first. After all, it is a bit dangerous to break through from the tunnel. Attracting the attention of the Central Plains people on the ground will cover their actions. Yes, it must be like this. Attack, attack with all your strength. General Ye shouted loudly, blow the attack horn for me. The command of the barbarian troops was basically controlled by the flag and the sound of the horn, so when the long horn sounded, all the soldiers of the main force began to rush towards the defensive position, regardless of life and death. However, before they rushed to the bottom of the defensive position, a piece of ground in front of them suddenly cracked, and then all the soil on the ground collapsed. When these charging barbarian soldiers smelled the smell coming out of the ground, they vomited on the spot. Then, when several people covered with stolen goods crawled out of the yellow torrent, they vomited even more. Anatoly wiped his face and shouted loudly, "Why are you standing there? I am Anatoly from the vanguard of the Expeditionary Corps. Come over and pull up the others." However, the other barbarian soldiers looked at him, hesitated for several seconds, and did not move forward. First of all, the scene was a bit weird, and everyone couldn't see Anatoly's face clearly. Secondly, it was really disgusting, and it was a bit hard to do it. "What are you doing? Hurry up," Anatoly shouted. But this time, the answer to him was the sound of gunfire from the defensive position. Amid the roar of sniping, Yang Xiaojun received instructions from Ren Xiaosu and directly shot and sniped all the barbarians who came out of the tunnel. According to Ren Xiaosu, she didn't need to care about others, just snipe these barbarian masters. As the battle began, more than a dozen machine gun positions on the defensive position instantly opened fire. In the past, they would consume more than 2,000 barbarian troops in a day at most, and this time, it was definitely the best opportunity for the 6th Combat Brigade to hit the Expeditionary Corps. Amid the sound of gunfire, all the soldiers of the 6th Combat Brigade burst into a light that was difficult to conceal. After 3 days of holding back in this defensive position, everyone knew that with their troops, even if they exchanged 1 for 10, they would probably be wiped out here. They really needed a great victory to boost morale. Chapter 952. There is no wrong nickname. On the defensive position, the soldiers of the 6th Combat Brigade used machine guns to harvest the barbarians. This battle came suddenly, and the enemy retreated very suddenly. The main force of the Expeditionary Corps had already entered the rest period. If it weren't for the experts who said that they should cooperate with each other, they would not have stepped back on the battlefield so hastily. As a result, the Expeditionary Corps paid a very painful price in today's battle. Fortunately, the generals who commanded the battle were able to maintain their rationality, and the barbarians did not panic when they retreated. Even so, they paid more than 3,000 lives in this war. When the soldiers of the 6th Combat Brigade saw the barbarians retreat, cheers suddenly broke out on the entire defensive position. Although they knew that the war was far from over and that the future would still be difficult, it did not prevent them from being excited at the moment. An old soldier danced beside the heavy machine gun. "See? Just now the barbarians were almost out of shooting range, but I fired 3 bursts of shots at the end, and they went through the gaps in their shields and hit one of them in the head. I'm asking you if you're amazing or not? I told you I'm a sharpshooter a long time ago, and look at your expressions at that time." Several soldiers took off their boots decisively while sitting on the battlefield, and the whole machine gun battlefield was filled with a faint smell of foot odor. The boots were very heavy, and all the soldiers tied the laces of their boots very tightly. Although it would be more convenient in battle, the feet would feel stuffy after a long time. When everyone took off their boots, someone immediately cheered comfortably. Today's battle lasted for 16 hours, and there were 4 groups of soldiers changing guards on one battlefield alone, and everyone was extremely tired. However, at this moment, the aroma of meat suddenly wafted over the defensive positions, and some veterans opened their eyes wide. "Meat, it's the smell of freshly stewed meat, not canned luncheon meat. Can you smell it?" the new recruit asked in confusion. "Of course," the old soldier said with a smile, "when you vomit after eating luncheon meat, you can also tell the difference. Go, send someone to get food quickly, otherwise the meat may be taken away by other brother troops if it's too late." More than 10 minutes later, Dozens of soldiers came back with full aluminum lunchboxes and said excitedly, "Don't worry about finishing it." Brigade Commander Zhang said that we can eat as much as we want today, and there will be plenty of meat. The old soldier asked in confusion, "Hey, where did this meat come from?" The brigade commander said that the young marshal brought it back. "I just heard that the young marshal went out to fight 5 barbarian supply transport troops this time," the new recruit explained with a smile. "Not only meat, but also fresh vegetables." The moment everyone heard about fresh vegetables, they were even more excited than hearing about fresh meat. Since they came to the Central Plains from the northwest, they basically ate carrots, white radishes and potatoes on the road. It was not that the Northwest Army was poor, but only this kind of vegetables was easy to store. You can't be particular about food when marching and fighting. It's not easy to ensure nutrition and to be full. Now, the old soldier opened the aluminum box and saw green pepper and shredded pork in the lunchbox. An old soldier was silent. In fact, it was just a meal of green pepper and shredded pork, but I don't know how many memories of home it evoked for him. When you go out to fight, perhaps a very small detail can make people immersed in the good times of the past. War is cruel. The more cruel the environment, the more beautiful it needs to support them to keep going. "I miss home," sighed the old soldier. A new soldier suddenly asked, "Squad leader, why did you join the army in the first place?" The old soldier smiled and said, "I feel honored. You used to be on the Zhong family's territory, so you don't understand. For the people of Fort 178, it is an honor to be able to defend that fortress." "Do you regret it?" asked the new soldier. "What's there to regret?" The old soldier took a bite of shredded pork with green peppers while holding his lunchbox. "When you are old and play chess with other old men on the street, you have to mention that you were a soldier in the 178th fortress when you were young. The old men on the other side will have to be polite. I can brag about this for the rest of my life. After the great victory, nothing can make the soldiers happier than a good meal." P-5092 silently watched the soldiers shuttle back and forth near the canteen tent. He suddenly said to Ren Xiaosu solemnly, "Thank you, young commander. These supplies came just in time. Yesterday, in order to ensure that the defense positions had a continuous supply of food, the distribution plan had already begun. The food for each soldier was reduced to half of the usual amount, just to last longer. As a result, they had just reduced the time for 1 day, and Ren Xiaosu brought back an unimaginable amount of supplies. The amount of supplies carried by the 5 transport troops was quite huge, and half of them were just looted from the fire seed by the Expeditionary Corps. That was the supplies left by nearly 100,000 troops. Even if there was not much left, it was enough for the 6th Combat Brigade to deal with emergencies. At this moment, Ji Xiang looked at the atmosphere on the defensive position that had become active again, and suddenly felt a kind of joy from the bottom of his heart. He suddenly felt that a man should fight side by side with a group of like-minded people in such a place. But before he could be happy for long, he suddenly saw Wang Yun coming over with a smile. "Old Ji, you have made a great contribution in this battle. Not only did you disgust the barbarians, but you also emptied the septic tank. You know, Zhang Xiaoman was worried yesterday that the septic tank was too small. What if the septic tank was full? Then you solved the problem immediately." Ji Xiang's mouth twitched. He actually didn't want to mention his contribution. But he heard Wang Yun continue, "Now, your achievements have spread throughout the 6th Combat Brigade. Do you know what everyone calls you now?" Ji Xiang had a bad premonition. "What do they call me?" "Ho ha ho ha," Wang Yun suddenly laughed. "They call you the shit cleaner." Ji Xiang. "How about this name?" Wang Yun asked happily. "This is just a joke," Ji Xiang said with a dark face. "No, didn't you say it yourself? There are only wrong names, not wrong nicknames," Wang Yun said. Before this, Wang Yun had been troubled by the nickname of the shit catcher for several days, and when he was depressed, Ji Xiang used this sentence to stab him. Now, this knife has finally been returned to Ji Xiang, and Wang Yun felt that the haze in his heart suddenly dissipated, and his heart was much more balanced. Ji Xiang looked at the back of Wang Yun, who left triumphantly with his hands behind his back, his face blue and red, and he was afraid that his reputation in this life would be ruined. But thinking about it, Ji Xiang himself laughed. "Damn it, which grandson gave me this nickname?" At this time, a soldier passing by whispered, "Actually, this was given to you by Commander Wang Yun. We just think it is very suitable." Ji Xiang's face darkened again. There are only 2 chapters today, take a day off. Chapter 953, Barbarians Counterattack. After a great victory, soldiers can take a short break, but officers cannot. Before everyone had digested the food in their stomachs, P5092 convened an emergency temporary combat meeting. The small command tent was crowded with officers of all levels and combat staff. Everyone was not sure why P5092 had gathered everyone together at this time. Did they just win a great victory? P5092 glanced at the officers of all levels in front of him and said, "Although we have just won a victory, you must understand that we will face a more brutal battle next. Time is running out, and I will not discuss anything with you, but directly arrange the defense deployment work." Everyone looked at each other, and suddenly, everyone felt a sense of urgency, as if P5092 felt that this defensive position was about to be in danger, which made them even more confused. P5092 looked at the 1st Regiment and said, "The 1st Regiment has been serving as a mobile force before, and its rotation defense missions were relatively easy. But starting tonight, things will be different. From 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., I require the 1st Regiment to enter a level 1 combat readiness state and get to the number 3 defense line for me." Jin Yiwen, the commander of the 1st Regiment, was stunned for a moment. "Sir, the barbarians have never attacked during this time in the early morning for so long." P5092 glanced at him. "It is precisely because they never attacked during this time before, and this pattern is too easy to summarize, that we must be more vigilant. Moreover, you must do a good job of ideological work with the soldiers. From today on, you will assume the most important task of the entire defense position." Everyone looked at each other. According to P5092, if the barbarians launched the most violent attack, they would definitely choose this time period at dawn. P5092 said, "The Central Plains people need vision to shoot with hot weapons, but the barbarians have a relatively lower vision requirement when they raid. Even if we only consider the advantages of both sides, the Expeditionary Corps should choose to raid at night instead of avoiding this time period, so this is the problem. I will only explain this matter once. Next, you, the 2nd Regiment, must prepare the things I asked you to prepare." The commander of the 2nd Regiment, Kong Sheng, stood up and said, "Understood." "If I'm not mistaken," P5092 said, "the general offensive of the Expeditionary Corps will start tonight, at the latest tomorrow night. Ladies and gentlemen, it depends on you whether you can hold the defensive position. Maybe you and I will be buried here in a few days. The barbarians have more troops than us. Even if they have just won a great victory, they still have 10 times more troops than us. You also understand that in my battle plan, I want to exchange 10 for 1 with the Expeditionary Corps, so the most optimistic situation is that we and the barbarians will die here together. In the next few days, you may not even have time to sleep. Some people will be injured and some will be exhausted, but I hope that before that moment comes, you will always understand why you are standing here." "Okay," meeting adjourned. After that, all the officers walked out of the command tent. Wang Yun asked, "You deliberately described the situation so badly. Aren't you afraid of affecting morale? If I don't tell them, won't they think of it?" P5092 said calmly, "In fact, everyone understands what we are facing now. What we should do is to fight to the death. I want them to remember clearly in the battle that killing 10 barbarians will be considered a return. Killing 1 more may help 1 more of your comrades live. This is the courage to burn your boats and the power of despair in adversity. Then why do you think the barbarians will launch a strong attack?" Wang Yun wondered. But P5092 did not answer this question. In the thick night, the Zoan Mountains lay flat on the wilderness. Among the peaks and mountains, the defensive position seemed particularly small and powerless. However, in fact, there were hundreds of defensive bunkers crisscrossing the defensive positions. When the soldiers passed through them, the bunkers were as high as their chests. This is because the Expeditionary Corps does not use hot weapons. If they do, they will have to dig trenches and air raid shelters. The trenches are so high that they need ladders to climb up. To see the situation outside the trenches, they have to use a periscope specially erected in the trenches, just like being in a submarine. On the battlefield, the crisscrossing bunkers are like rows of houses. P5092 also gave each main passage a name, such as Xiangxing Road, Shaman Road, etc. This is not to boost morale, but to facilitate the rapid transmission of orders in chaotic combat. In fact, this is a very common and ancient method in war. Since humans have other means of communication, some people have gradually abandoned this method. But now that the communication equipment of the 6th Combat Brigade has been deactivated, P5092 has picked up this method. At this time, an old soldier in Tanxing Road was leaning against a bunker next to him, and was carving words on the bunker with the discarded shells in his hand. The new recruits came over and saw the 3 words Tanxing Road. However, just as the new soldier was about to say something, the veteran suddenly stood up and looked outside the bunker, and picked up the military binoculars beside him. In the distance, black figures were rushing towards them quickly. The crowd was as dense as a tide, and the veteran's scalp tingled. Enemy attack. Quick, notify the headquarters, the barbarians are coming. Before this, everyone was curious. Obviously, the barbarians never launched an attack during this time period. Was the order of Chief P5092 correct? Now, everyone has the answer. P5092 is correct. The command tent had just received news of the enemy attack. Wang Yun turned to look at P5092. How did you guess that the Expeditionary Corps was coming? You didn't answer me before. Because I checked the supplies brought back by the young marshal, P5092 said. There are a lot of supplies, but a quarter of them are black bread. You have tasted the black bread. It's sour, astringent and bitter. Even the barbarians probably don't like to eat this kind of thing, right? Yes, Wang Yun said, I feel that it is not something that humans eat. This shows that their supplies are already in a very tight situation. Maybe the environment in the north is too harsh, and they can't eat enough, so they went south, P5092 analyzed, and now, they have just broken through the Sparks defense line and found a new source of supplies, but the young marshal took away most of them. Including their own supplies and the Sparks supplies, the young marshal did not let go of any of them. So, their plan to fight to support the war was interrupted by the young marshal, Wang Yun said in a daze. That's right, P5092 said, now that all the supplies have been taken away, if they don't make a desperate move and launch a general attack, they might starve before they can defeat the Central Plains people. Although it's a bit awkward to say, the barbarians are no longer in control of the initiative. You may not believe it, but they may think they are fighting back in desperation. To be honest, Ren Xiaosu never thought that just robbing a few supply troops would have such a big impact on the entire situation. Chapter 954, Individual Soldier Cloud Explosion Bomb. The reason why the transportation line for material supply is called the lifeline is that if this line is cut off, more than 100,000 soldiers on the front line will face the situation of having no food to eat. No matter how brave a soldier is, or how skilled a general is, once the food is cut off, it will be a terrible thing, and it will inevitably lead to the failure of the war. At the beginning, P5092 came to Zoan Mountain, but he didn't have any idea about this material transportation line. After all, the barbarians would definitely protect it strictly. In fact, in order to protect the transportation line, the Expeditionary Corps directly used 70,000 troops to surround Zoan Mountain. Therefore, P5092 just forced the Expeditionary Corps to exchange his life, and didn't think that he could pose any threat to the barbarian supplies. But P5092 and the Expeditionary Corps didn't expect that this impossible task was really completed by Ren Xiaosu. Now the Expeditionary Corps is facing the problem of food shortage. It's not that they want to launch a full-scale attack at this time, but the situation forces them to launch a full-scale attack at this time. Just as P5092 said, the Expeditionary Corps is actually fighting back in a desperate situation. Wang Yun was stunned for a long while, but when he saw P5092's frowning face, he suddenly asked, since we are now in the initiative, why are you still frowning? Because from this moment on, the real cruelty of war will be fully reflected, P5092 said. War is not a duel of chess pieces on a chessboard, but a journey to tragic victory at the cost of the continuous death of lives. There was an orange-yellow light in the tent, while outside the tent was a pitch-black night. Several illumination tracer bullets on the defensive position rose into the sky, and then released a blazing red flame and slowly fell. In the air, the magnesium powder and the incendiary bombs burned fully under the action of the oxidant barium nitrate, and it was gorgeous and dazzling. However, under this beautiful light, the ugly Expeditionary Corps kept charging with ugly leather shields. This time, the Expeditionary Corps offensive rhythm was several times faster than before. Just as P-5092 guessed, the barbarians could no longer tolerate the 6th Combat Brigade in Zoyan Mountain. They had to end the battle here as quickly as possible. On the defensive position, the bullets of the heavy machine guns were like orange-red eggs in the night. When the 12.7mm caliber bullets left the barrel at a speed of 800 meters per second, the bullets seemed to burn in the night. The bullets began to rotate the moment they passed through the spiral rifling of the barrel. The power of this rotation helped it tear apart all the factors that interfered with it. Under this power, the barbarians' leather shields were cracked inch by inch, like ugly flowers blooming in the mud. However, today's barbarians no longer hesitated. They kept rushing forward with their quickly broken shields, just to rush to the bottom of the defensive position before the shields were completely rotten. This is a completely life-or-death fighting method. These barbarian warriors sent up are just like cannon fodder to pave the way for the follow-up troops, using their lives to shorten the distance between the Expeditionary Corps and the defensive position. P-5092 watched this scene in the defensive position. He called Zhang Xiaoman to explain. It seems that the barbarians want to try to break through the defensive position tonight and catch us off guard. They probably don't know that we are waiting for them in advance, so they use the most violent offensive right away. Tell the 2nd Regiment that the things they prepared will be used immediately. After the Expeditionary Corps approached at all costs, the soldiers on the defensive position finally broke through the enemy's heavy shield when the enemy approached about 400 meters away. But the next moment, dozens of heavily armored warriors rushed out from behind the shield. They held shields made of steel plates in their hands and rushed forward bravely, fearless of death. The barbarians who died in front were just cannon fodder. It was not until they entered a distance of 400 meters that the real purpose was revealed. It turned out that the mission of those cannon fodders was just to hide these heavily armored warriors behind leather shields and then escort them here. These heavily armored warriors wore armor themselves, and the steel shields in their hands were armor dismantled from the armored brigade where the spark had been defeated. The firepower of the heavy machine guns quickly concentrated near these dozens of people, but even if their actions were slightly delayed, they still could not effectively kill the heavily armored warriors. P-5092 said to a combat staff officer, "Now, notify the 2nd Regiment to intercept them." Just northwest of the number 1 position, 20 soldiers behind the bunker suddenly shouldered weapons like rocket launchers, and under the cover of their comrades' firepower, they began to aim at those heavily armored warriors. The 2nd Regiment commander calculated the distance of the barbarians and shouted, "Wait for my order. Once the heavily armored barbarians enter the 310-meter range, shoot immediately. Whoever misses will not have dinner tomorrow morning." These people were not carrying RPG rocket launchers on their shoulders, but individual cloud bombs. It was the most terrifying killing weapon among individual incendiary bombs. At first, the battles of the Barrier Alliance used napalm bombs, but then everyone gradually abandoned them. Some people say that it was because napalm bombs were too cruel, but in fact, if there is anything that could make the army voluntarily give up a weapon, it must be that more advanced weapons have replaced its role. This time, the 6th Combat Brigade came to the Central Plains, and they brought 32 disposable individual cloud bombs, which are now all in the hands of the 2nd Regiment. Fire! The 2nd Regiment commander roared. As soon as the voice fell, 20 individual cloud bombs began to cover the battlefield. Those cloud bombs fell near the target at a speed invisible to the naked eye. In an instant, the cloud bombs began to explode for the first time, and the cloud explosives carried in the bomb body quickly spread in the air. Cloud explosives are not explosives, but high-energy fuels such as ethylene oxide. At the moment of the second explosion, the cloud explosives burned at an instant of high temperature and high pressure. With the explosion point as the center, the temperature will instantly reach 2,500 degrees and form a high-pressure shock. Because the fuel-air bomb is not equipped with an oxidizer, at the moment of explosion, it will drain all the oxygen nearby and create an oxygen-deficient area. When those heavily armored soldiers bravely charged, the fuel-air bomb exploded beside or in front of them, just like the fierce collision between modern civilization and barbaric civilization. No matter how thick the barbarians' heavy armor is, no matter how strong the armor in the hands of the barbarians is, the high temperature and high pressure will end all life. Then, the huge lack of oxygen caused the subsequent barbarians to rush in and suffocate quickly. But at this moment, P-5092 suddenly frowned. "Wang Yun, is there any difference between this batch of heavily armored soldiers and the heavy armored soldiers who rushed out the first time?" Wang Yun quickly compared the difference between the two. It only took him 1 second to quickly say, "Something is wrong." The heavy armored soldiers this time are not as fast as the last time they appeared. P-5092 sighed, "Sure enough, let the 2nd Regiment stop firing fuel air bombs and wait for my order." P-509 was only glad that he had prepared in advance and did not let the 2nd Regiment fire a volley of fuel air bombs, leaving 12 of them. Because the heavily armored warriors who came this time are probably just high-level cannon fodder used by the Expeditionary Corps to consume their weapons and equipment. The real masters are still hiding in the dark. Eat a bite of food. There is another chapter in the evening. In addition, today is Ren Xiaosu's birthday. I wish Ren Xiaosu a happy birthday and hope that he can be an upright person in the future. This is my only expectation for him. Chapter 955. Veterans are there to light the way for new recruits. The heavy armored warriors that appeared this time were definitely not as fast and powerful as the ones that appeared the first time. This incident undoubtedly reminded P-5092 again that the enemy he faced was extremely cunning and cautious in terms of tactics and strategy. The incident when the spark was lured to the north and almost annihilated was still vivid in his mind. P-5092 said to combat staff officer, "Tell the commander of the 2nd Regiment to keep the remaining individual airburst bombs in hand. I will let the 4th Regiment use mortars to temporarily slow down the offensive of the Expeditionary Corps." The combat staff officer took the order and left. Wang Yun said, "Although these heavy armored warriors are not as good as the previous one, they are at least relatively powerful characters among the barbarians, between masters and ordinary barbarian warriors. This Expeditionary Corps is also cruel enough to test our attack methods with human lives. When the enemy comes, the general will fight, and when the water comes, the earth will build. It's not the first or second time that we have dealt with them. I'm not really worried about this," said P-5092. "Then what are you worried about?" Wang Yun asked curiously. "I'm worried that the weapons we trust will have problems," P-5092 said. Wang Yun was stunned. "You mean there's a problem with the weapons sent by Wangs?" "No," P-5092 said. "You also check the weapons they sent. It's fine. I mean the life of the heavy machine guns, and the ammunition. People have lifespans, and of course guns do too. Someone once tried to keep firing with an automatic rifle to see what would happen to the gun. The result was that the barrel of the automatic rifle slowly turned red, and then the barrel broke. This is probably the case now, because the Expeditionary Corps offensive is too intensive, and many positions of the 6th Combat Brigade have no time to cool down the guns. The water output of the mountain spring is limited, and it cannot be used to cool the gun barrels, so the soldiers can only use urine. However, urine will run out someday. Moreover, it's not just a question of whether the gun barrel can withstand high-intensity combat. If a heavy machine gun suddenly has other problems, this accident may cause a position to be breached. War is a place full of surprises, just like people get sick and precision machines break down. Besides, the ammunition that the 6th Combat Brigade brought might not last long, as there were too many enemies. At this time, on the road to the liberation of the number 2 position, an old soldier was aiming a heavy machine gun at the barbarians and firing rhythmically. As the machine gun spewed out flames, orange-yellow shells kept popping out of the gun chamber. Shells fell to the ground one by one, and because there were too many shells piled on the ground, they made a crisp sound when they collided. Ammunition belt. Seeing that the magazine next to the heavy machine gun was about to be empty, the old soldier immediately called his assistant to come and replace it. However, at this moment, the new soldier came over in a hurry with a magazine filled with ammunition belts. The new soldier opened the cover on the upper side of the machine gun and pressed the first bullet of the belt into it. Everything went smoothly, but when he wanted to close the cover, he found that he couldn't close it. The veteran yelled, "What's going on? The barbarians are rushing to the front of the position." The new soldier was almost crying in anxiety. "I don't know why the gun cover won't close." The veteran looked carefully and found that it was not because the new soldier was too stupid, but because the front part of the ammunition belt was irregular, which caused the gun cover to not close. It had to be reprocessed. The ammunition belt was invented to provide more ammunition for high-rate heavy machine guns, which is more practical than magazines and drums. But the ammunition belt also has its own defects, that is, its loading speed is far slower than that of magazines and drums. Of course, this is also caused by their carelessness. Soldiers should check everything before going to the battlefield, and no mistakes are allowed. The veteran didn't say anything more. He pulled out the dagger from his waist and began to process the ammunition belt, but it was too late. The Expeditionary Corps in front was only a few dozen meters away from the position. When the barbarians heard the gunfire stop, they immediately rushed up, almost running at full speed. The veteran shouted, "Fire cover, throw grenades." Grenade. The soldiers nearby used automatic rifles to suppress the fire, but the power of automatic rifles was far from that of heavy machine guns. Some soldiers threw grenades, but when the grenades were thrown out, the barbarians saw that they were not far from the position, and they directly discarded the broken shields and avoided the trajectory of the grenades with their strong physical fitness. The grenade trick is effective. Many barbarians will lose their combat ability instantly even if they are hit by aftershocks and fragments. Moreover, this line of defense is equipped with 4 handheld grenade launchers, which kill dozens of barbarians at once. However, these fire suppressions are still not enough when facing the barbarians who are fearless and like locusts. It's not that the lethality is not strong enough, but that these barbarians do not retreat. If someone dies, the people behind will catch up. The barbarians have long been prepared to use human lives to fill this meat grinder. But as long as sporadic barbarians rush up, there will be a steady stream of barbarians behind to open a gap from here. At this time, the veteran had already dealt with the ammunition belt, but it was too late. He could even clearly see the barbarian's facial features, and his ears seemed to be filled with the other's heavy breathing and ferocious roar. "It's over." The veteran looked ashen, and he pulled the soldier next to him over. "You are a machine gunner now." After saying that, he pulled out a piece of explosives wrapped in yellow paper from under the bunker, and was about to jump out of the position. Now, the grenade alone is not enough. The new soldier grabbed his arm. "Squad leader, where are you going?" "It's all my fault. I didn't check in advance." The veteran slapped him. "Don't waste my time, learn something, you are also a veteran." The new soldier suddenly realized that his squad leader had to use his life to block the barbarian's way, so as to open up a new shooting space for the machine gun on the position. Explosives cannot be thrown. The delay of the explosives in their hands is 7 seconds. If the barbarian catches it and throws it back, it will be all over. The new recruit suddenly remembered that when he was chatting with his squad leader a few days ago, he asked the squad leader, "What is the difference between old soldiers and new soldiers? Except whether they have been on the battlefield or killed anyone." The old soldier's answer made him confused at the time. The squad leader said, "Under the bronze bell of Fortress 178 are buried the molars of martyrs. They are all predecessors who died in battle. Do you remember the words engraved on the bronze bell? A person's life should be like a candle, burning from beginning to end, always bright. We old soldiers are this candle, responsible for lighting the way ahead and the way home for you new recruits who are still wet behind the ears." It was not until this moment that the new recruit realized what this sentence meant. The old soldier propped himself up on the bunker with one hand and planned to climb out of the bunker. But in a flash, the old soldier suddenly saw a blood mist burst out from the 2 barbarians 5 or 6 meters away from him. Sniper. 2 snipers. Good night everyone. Chapter 956, Walking on Flat Ground. The sudden sniper bullets on the battlefield shattered the Expeditionary Corps' hope of breaking through the defensive position. Not only were the barbarians who were about to approach the defense line quickly killed, but some experts hidden in the large army were also found by Yang Xiaojun. As a result, the psychological pressure on the Expeditionary Corps by the snipers was even greater. They didn't know how the snipers found these experts from the thousands of troops, because these experts didn't even wear heavy armor in order to hide their identities and avoid being focused by the Central Plains people. Ren Xiaosu didn't have this ability. When he observed through the sniper scope, his observation ability would be weakened after all, just like normal people. When they look at things through a telescope or through a surveillance camera, their ability to see details would be weakened. But Yang Xiaojun was different. She was used to observing the world with the scope. Some barbarian masters hid in the large army and looked for opportunities, but they were not as brave as other soldiers, so she found them at a glance. In fact, Yang Xiaojun didn't know that these barbarians were hidden masters. She just found these people sneaking around in the scope and not following other soldiers to rush forward. There must be something wrong. Since there is a problem, just shoot them down. At first, when the 2 of them joined the battlefield, the Expeditionary Corps didn't pay much attention to the 2 snipers. It was only because they also knew about the snipers of the Central Plains, so the commander thought that they were just 2 snipers and could not influence the situation on the battlefield. If there were only 2 ordinary snipers here, their impact on the entire front battlefield would not be too great. Because it takes a long time to reload, there may not be many bullets, and these bullets must be armor-piercing bullets to effectively kill some heavily armored soldiers. But Yang Xiaojun and Ren Xiaosu's black snipers are different. First of all, they don't need to load and have unlimited firepower. They can choose bullets at will. This is enough to make them the rulers on the battlefield, just like 2 artillery pieces. It is precisely because Yang Xiaojun knows how powerful the black sniper is that she was so happy when Ren Xiaosu gave her a black sniper. Therefore, on the front battlefield, P5092 no longer regarded these 2 people as normal snipers. During the fire suppression process, the commander of the Expeditionary Corps did not suspend their offensive for a long time. He thought that the snipers' bullets would eventually run out. How many shots could these 2 snipers fire? 50 shots? 100 shots? Even if they could fire 400 or 500 shots, there were still tens of thousands of soldiers in their Expeditionary Corps, and there would always be a time when your sniper bullets would run out. The strategy of the Expeditionary Corps today was to exchange lives, so they didn't care about the death of a few hundred people. However, the commander of the Expeditionary Corps gradually found that the sound of the sniper's gun seemed to never stop. A rough calculation showed that the sound of the sniper's gun had probably sounded hundreds of times, but there was still no end in sight. He ordered his adjutant to record the frequency and number of shots of the other side. As a result, he found that the frequency of the 2 snipers lying on the opposite mountain was much more terrifying than the Central Plains snipers they knew, and the number of shots gradually climbed to 1,000, and there was no sign of stopping. The roar of the anti-material sniper rifles could not be covered even by the heavy machine guns. Gradually, the sound of the gunfire made the barbarians feel a kind of fear, as if someone was holding a remote control on the opposite side, and as long as they pressed it once, one of them would die. It was too uncomfortable to feel that their fate was in the hands of others. The commander of the Expeditionary Corps was still unwilling to order a temporary suspension of the offensive, and wanted to use human lives to fill this bottomless pit. In fact, this strategy was actually correct. After all, who would give up the attack because of 2 snipers? Then just retreat directly to the north. Moreover, Yang Xiaojun's mental power began to be insufficient. Every time the sniper rifle bombarded and the bullets were fired, it was at the cost of consuming her mental power. At this time, she began to experience symptoms of dizziness and nausea, which was a manifestation of overusing her extraordinary abilities. Except for Ren Xiaosu, all extraordinary people have their mental powers limited, so Yang Xiaojun is no exception. Being able to kill thousands of people on the battlefield before the mental power is gradually exhausted, this ability itself is terrifying enough, but in the end, it is still no match for the large number of people in the Expeditionary Corps. However, Yang Xiaojun suddenly seemed to remember something, and dissipated his black sniper rifle, and then took over Ren Xiaosu's sniper rifle. You go down and help them defend the line, I'll use your black sniper rifle. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment, and found that the other party could really use his black sniper rifle, and Yang Xiaojun's shooting frequency was faster at this time, faster than before. Every extraordinary person will deliberately control the speed of mental power consumption when using their abilities. Ren Xiaosu has always been in a state of unlimited firepower, so he has no such concept, but the others are people with energy bars, so they will naturally pay attention to the energy bar, and each of them has developed the habit of being thrifty. After all, they have to use it sparingly. Therefore, when Yang Xiaojun shot before, he did not squander his mental power so recklessly. But now it was different. She was using Ren Xiaosu's black sniper, which was equivalent to consuming Ren Xiaosu's mental strength. In this way, the last layer of shackles that bound Yang Xiaojun's perfect level firearms ability was gone. Ren Xiaosu watched this scene silently, feeling a little amused. He originally thought that he had already reached the master level, and the gap between him and the opponent was gradually narrowing. As a result, he now understood what the concept of perfect level was. Wang Yun heard the slight difference in the frequency of the gunshots and looked back at the mountain behind him, but he was shocked to find that Ren Xiaosu was actually climbing down the mountain, and only Yang Xiaojun was left at the sniper point. The shooting frequency of a sniper was only a little slower than the 2 people just now. Wang Yun didn't figure out what was going on for a long time. At this time, the originally shaky defense line was strengthened again, and the barbarians' offensive launched at all costs began to ease. It was not until this moment that P-5092 finally breathed a sigh of relief. He looked back at Yang Xiaojun, who was still shooting at the sniper point, and exclaimed, "This kind of terrain, combined with this kind of artillery-like sniper, is completely beyond my plan. When I first came here, I thought it would be nice to die here with the barbarians. Later, the young marshal went to copy their supply troops, and I thought maybe we could win. Now I don't know why I suddenly have inexplicable confidence, and even feel that we can fight this battle very beautifully." However, at this moment, P-5092 was stunned. He raised his hand and picked up the military telescope beside him to look up at the mountain, then shouted, "Enemy attack! There are gray creatures moving quickly above the sniper point." However, just as P-5092 finished speaking, in the shadow of the folds of the mountain, someone wearing a white mask suddenly climbed up from the side to meet those gray creatures. The inclination angle of the mountain is as high as 75 degrees, but the speed of the white mask climbing is like running wildly on the ground. This may be the legendary walking on flat ground. Eat a meal. There are 2 more chapters in the evening. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 957, The Determination to Kill. No one noticed when the white mask was hidden in the mountain. Just now, everyone was curious. Ren Xiaosu had been at the front line in the battles all along. Why did he suddenly run to the sniper point? In the battles of the past few days, Ren Xiaosu was like a firefighter. He went wherever there was pressure. He really had never used a sniper rifle. Everyone was a little uncomfortable with his sudden use of a sniper rifle today, but no one asked about it. They just thought it was a change of mindset. In fact, the fire suppression ability of the 2 snipers was really strong, so everyone thought that Ren Xiaosu's tactical adjustment was very successful. Although they didn't know that the key to Ren Xiaosu's success in this tactic was that he gave the black sniper to Yang Xiaojun, allowing Yang Xiaojun to start the horror mode of unlimited firepower. Now Yang Xiaojun felt that Ren Xiaosu's black sniper was very useful, and she didn't have to worry about the feeling of mental energy consumption at all. It was really refreshing. At this time, someone below the sniper point had already reminded her to pay attention to the top of her head, but Yang Xiaojun didn't even look at it and continued to suppress the fire. Because Ren Xiaosu had told her that someone was coming to attack, but Lao Su had already hidden himself, and whoever came would die. The reason why Ren Xiaosu came to the sniper point was because Sun Yu found him and said that 32 powerful life features appeared behind the mountain where the sniper point was located. Sun Yu didn't know what these 32 life features were, but they must be enemies, otherwise no one would come here now. It must be said that Sun Yu's humanoid self-propelled radar was too useful on the battlefield. Until this moment, Ren Xiaosu finally admitted that Sun Yu was the 7th strong man in the 6th Combat Brigade. The 7 strong men finally formed a coalition. Just now, Sun Yu was still in the command tent, sitting on a chair with good food and drink. He talked about the movements of the barbarians, and Wang Yun remembered every detail he said, and then formed a specific picture on the sand table. P-5092 with Sun Yu as a supplement to the combat command, the movements of the barbarians were simply known. The only drawback is that Sun Yu, this fair-skinned fat man, is usually too lazy and has poor mental strength. He has to rest after a while of investigation, so his investigation is also intermittent. At this time, the white mask continued to climb up the rock, and slowly everyone saw clearly that the gray creatures were 32 experimental subjects. P-5092 was stunned for a moment. He had heard Xiaosu talk about the appearance of experimental subjects near the Expeditionary Corps before, but it was still a bit unbelievable to see it with his own eyes this time. In everyone's concept, the experimental subjects should have been extinct. The experimental subjects dived down quickly. They walked on the rocks very flexibly, like huge and weird gray insects. The white mask charged upwards, like an extremely sharp knife. Ren Xiaosu in the defensive position shouted to Ji Xiang, "Help me." As he spoke, Ji Xiang stretched out his palm towards the mountain. Every time the white mask jumped on the mountain, When he fell towards the mountain, a flat rock would appear under his feet to give him leverage. It was Ji Xiang's cooperation that allowed Lao Su to walk so flexibly in the mountains. Not only that, an experimental subject was diving down, but the rock at its next landing point suddenly turned into sand. The hard rock turned into powder and shattered under the palm of the experimental subject, and all the force of the experimental subject rushing down was in vain. The experimental subject suddenly lost all balance and flew towards Lao Su crookedly. The next moment, Lao Su flew up all the way with a black knife raised horizontally, passing by the unbalanced experimental subject and splitting the experimental subject in half. In this flash, Lao Su's figure did not even pause at all, and he went straight to the next experimental subject. Ren Xiaosu watched this scene silently, and Yang Xiaojun gave him absolute trust. Even if there were 32 experimental subjects attacking overhead, Yang Xiaojun did not stop shooting. If it were someone else, they would have run away long ago. Ren Xiaosu also set off. The flat stone steps appeared under his feet, and the young man fought along the rocks all the way up. The violent Lao Su and Ren Xiaosu, the calm Yang Xiaojun, the fight on the top of the mountain, the fearless sniper on the mountainside. This scene is like a perfect combination of movement and stillness, full of the beauty of battle. Ji Xiang kept changing the terrain while watching this scene with a shock in his heart. At a certain moment, he suddenly felt that the man and woman in front of him should be together. No one else in the world would have such a pleasing scene. Such a couple would probably be the nightmare of any enemy. The bodies of the experimental subjects kept falling, and P5092 walked to the body to check. He confirmed that it was indeed the experimental subject. Gray skin, sharp claws, this creature can no longer be called a human. Then if Ren Xiaosu's guess was correct, the intelligent life in the experimental subject did escape the nuclear explosion of barrier number 74, and also went to the north to join forces with the Expeditionary Corps. In an instant, P5092 thought a lot, and he even suspected that the Expeditionary Corps suddenly went south, which was also the idea of the experimental subject. If this is true, then we must find an opportunity to kill it in this war, otherwise this disgusting thing will continue to cause trouble to the Central Plains. While P5092 was thinking, Ren Xiaosu and Lao Su had joined forces to kill the last invading experimental subject on the top of the mountain. But when Ren Xiaosu reached the top, he suddenly saw a black robe on the opposite mountain peak silently looking at him. And beside the black robe, there were dozens of barbarian experimental subjects crawling on the ground and roaring, ready to move. However, the black robe did not let them come to fight, because it knew very well what kind of strength the young man on the opposite mountain had, and the two mountains looked very close, but there was a huge chasm in the middle. The black robe smiled hoarsely. It didn't matter. Soon it would have an army of experimental subjects. By then, the whole world would belong to it. However, at this moment, the black robe suddenly saw the boy opposite raise his arm, and his palm slashed across his neck like a knife, and then turned and disappeared on the top of the mountain. For some reason, a chill suddenly rose behind the black robe. It felt Ren Xiaosu's determination to kill it. It stood to reason that the boy and the Central Plains people on the defensive position were already in danger. It was obvious that if the Expeditionary Corps continued to attack for a few more hours, these Central Plains people would run out of ammunition, and then these Central Plains people would die under the steel axes of the Expeditionary Corps, and the boy would be no exception. But despite this, the black robe was still inexplicably frightened, as if the boy would really kill it. The black robe patted Valentin, who was crawling beside him. You lead them to hide in the mountains. When this defensive position is lost, I want you to block all his retreat routes as soon as possible, and then surround and kill him. There will be another chapter later. Chapter 958 Mysterious Troops. At least one thing is certain for Black Robe. With such a high-intensity battle and the Expeditionary Corps attack at all costs, all the ammunition of the 6th Combat Brigade will be quickly exhausted. It won't take too long. 10 hours will be enough. If the offensive is more intense, 8 hours is possible. The ammunition carried by a combat brigade is limited, and each army has strict regulations on the ammunition carried, commonly known as an ammunition base. If we talk about it in more detail, it is basically 60 rounds of pistol ammunition, 200 rounds of automatic rifle ammunition, 500 rounds of squad machine gun ammunition, 1,500 rounds of tank heading machine gun ammunition base, and 120 rounds of battalion 82mm mortar ammunition base. How much ammunition to carry is related to the durability of the battle and the weight of the soldiers. It is a very particular knowledge. You can't carry too much or too little. Fortunately, the 6th Combat Brigade brought more when it set out, and Wang sent a batch of heavy machine guns and heavy machine gun bullets, otherwise they might not even last 8 hours. The battle was a life and death struggle, and the outcome would depend on these 8 hours. Wang clan in Daniu Mountain also knew what was happening in Zoyan Mountain. If Zoyan Mountain fell, Wang clan would have to bear the pressure of all the remaining troops of the Expeditionary Corps, which was something they did not want to see. So when the Expeditionary Corps attacked Zoyan Mountain fiercely, Wang clan also launched a full-scale counterattack, no longer maneuvering, and was determined to fight to the end. And the series of chain reactions was only because Ren Xiaosu destroyed the barbarians' material transportation troops. At this time, Wang Yun said to P5092, I went around various positions. With the current ammunition consumption, we will face a situation where we are out of ammunition in 8 hours and 41 minutes at most. Of course, this is just an average theoretical data. The marshal's wife will also be tired. After fighting for another 8 hours, her shooting accuracy will definitely decrease. By then, the sniper rifle's firepower suppression will not be so strong, and the ammunition consumption on the position will also increase. P5092 nodded, I understand. After speaking, P5092 turned to look at Sun Yu, and pointed to a geographical location on the sand table. If there are more than 10,000 Expeditionary Corps troops gathered at this location, be sure to tell me in time. Then, P5092 said to Ji Xiang, at that time, you will directly push down peak number 6 to delay the attack rhythm of the Expeditionary Corps. Our situation is not optimistic now, but fortunately, we have not only hot weapons in our hands, but also everyone present here. Okay, everyone should do their job. Commander Zhang Hushan, please guard position number 2. Once heavy armored soldiers appear there, you must kill them all. The big liar laughed cheerfully and said, don't worry, as long as I still have the strength, they can't get up to position number 2. As they said that, everyone left. When Zhang Xiaoman left, he glared at the big liar and said, you old man, let's settle the matter of taking advantage of me later. Let's finish this battle first. The big liar left with a giggle, you talk as if you can beat me. Besides, you were not even born when I met your father. What's wrong with taking advantage of you? Besides, how do you know that I'm not your biological father? Zhang Xiaoman's eyes almost exploded after hearing this. This dishonest guy keeps taking advantage of others. It's too mean. Zhang Xiaoman cursed, can't I scold you even though I can beat you? Just wait, I will scold you until you vomit blood after the battle. P5092 walked to the defensive position and looked at the Expeditionary Corps that were still charging outside. Wang Yun on the side suddenly said, in fact, you think the situation is not optimistic, right? Although your expression can't show anything, but I have concluded that when you are relaxed, you blink 16 times a minute, and when you are nervous, you only blink 9 times a minute. P5092 smiled, it's really hard to hide anything when you are a comrade in arms with someone like you. Obviously, the young marshal and his wife have shown great strength, and everyone is also making all the efforts for this battle. Seeing that the number of the Expeditionary Corps is getting smaller and smaller, you are getting more and more worried? Wang Yun asked. Because we are isolated and helpless, P5092 sighed. Just now Sun Yu said that another army appeared in the northwest. There are not many of them, only 2,000 people. They are now 80 kilometers away from us. According to their speed, they will arrive at the battlefield in 2 hours. Wang Yun was stunned for a moment. This is not right. How can the barbarians come from the northwest? Don't they come from the north? Could they be from the northwest? At this moment, Wang Yun changed the words he used when mentioning the northwest. P5092 said, you also know that Sun Yu can observe the vital signs of other people. According to him, except for the young marshal, as long as other people appear in his perception, he can judge the strength of the other party based on the vigor of their flame. Wang Yun understood instantly. Sun Yu told you that these 2,000 people are very powerful. Yes, P5092 nodded and said, their flame is one level higher than that of ordinary barbarians. Wang Yun was also shocked. There couldn't be so many powerful extraordinary people in the northwest. If there were, Hu Iao and Ren Xiaosu would not be unaware of it. Therefore, 2,000 masters suddenly appeared in the northwest. They must be the reinforcements of the barbarians. After all, no one knows how many people and how many troops the barbarians have in the north. It is normal to have more people. It turns out that P5092 is not optimistic because Sun Yu discovered the enemy's reinforcements. Now, Wang Yun is not optimistic either. At the same time, a troop was marching quickly on the mountain road in the northwest. They were traveling along the expressway from the northwest to the Central Plains, and then they left the highway when they were 310 kilometers away from Zoyan Mountain, because the highway did not lead to Zoyan Mountain. The 2,000-man army crossed the mountains and ridges without any hesitation. When they could see Zoyan Mountain in the distance, Luolan, the leader, suddenly stopped and looked at the map. The direction is correct. Zoyan Mountain is ahead. All combat sequences, please pay attention. We will arrive at the outskirts of Zoyan Mountain in an hour, and then after a short rest there, we will go directly to beat the shit out of the barbarians. Do you understand? The response from the officers of each combat sequence came on the communication channel. Received. 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 At this time, Luolan was wearing a large combat uniform. The way he looked at the map was like ordering food from a menu in a restaurant. He muttered softly, I don't know if Xiaosu and the others can hold on until we get there. They should be able to. After all, it should be as easy for him to chop the barbarians as chopping melons. Behind Luolan was an entire reinforced regiment of nano-warriors. Each soldier had silver lines on his face and silver blood flowing in their veins. They looked like 2,000 heavenly soldiers. Good night, everyone. Chapter 959, War Escalates. Fatty, why did we travel such a long distance to the Central Plains battlefield? Joki beside Luolan complained, we've just returned to the southwest and haven't been there for 2 days, and you've dragged us up again. Our previous secret base was just destroyed by Wang's and Anjing Temple, why are you rushing to help them? I'm not here for the Wangs, Luolan said nonchalantly, it would be a good thing if the Wangs' power could be weakened. They're so bored that they sent people to destroy our base when they are facing a powerful enemy. But I'm here for Ren Xiaosu, do you understand? Friends. They're friends. Joki pouted, you talk as if our friendship is so deep. Of course it's deep, Luolan said, have you forgotten how he saved us? Luolan, may not have other advantages, but I'm definitely not just talking about being righteous. A drop of water should be repaid with a spring of water. Ren Xiaosu has saved me so many times. Now that I know he is trapped in Zoyan Mountain, there is no reason to ignore him. You have spent a lot of money to bring 2,000 nano-warriors, Joki said. The value of this nano-warrior is comparable to a missile. I don't know what you two brothers think. Qingzhen also lets you do whatever you want. Isn't he afraid that Wang will take this opportunity to arrest you? Luolan was unhappy. I said, why do you have to calculate everything with money? Can friendship be calculated with money? If not money, what can be calculated with? Joki said disdainfully, in this world, only real money will not betray you. Look at friendship. You care so much about friendship, and when you are in trouble, how many people will save you? Luolan laughed happily and said, why care about others? It doesn't matter if you don't understand the importance of friendship, but don't worry, if you are in trouble one day, I will save you even if I risk my life. When Luolan finished this sentence, Joki suddenly fell silent and said nothing more. This reinforced regiment that came from the southwest has been marching for several days in a row. After Luolan learned that Ren Xiaosu is trapped in Zoyan Mountain, he immediately organized the troops to set off. Fortunately, the southwest and northwest are connected by roads, and there is an expressway from the northwest to the Central Plains, which makes it convenient for their military trucks to quickly reach the battlefield. At this time, they were only more than 10 kilometers away from the outer perimeter of Zoyan Mountain. Luolan suddenly stopped slowly. The distance is almost there, we should be able to contact them. Communicator. Where is the communicator? Contact the 6th Combat Brigade of the Northwest Army in Zoyan Mountain for me. Luolan had contacted the 178 Fortress before coming, so he had a way to contact the troops in Zoyan Mountain. Now the communication equipment of the 6th Combat Brigade is basically all out of use, but at least a military communication radio station is still in working condition, so as to maintain communication with the Wangs. The communication range of this kind of radio station is basically only a few dozen kilometers, so Luolan must get close to contact it. Luolan muttered, Ren Xiaosu will be very surprised to know that I suddenly came to help. When the call was connected, Luolan shouted in a loud voice, "Where's Ren Xiaosu? I'll find your commander Ren Xiaosu and tell him that I, Luolan, am here to support you." After a short silence on the other side of the phone, Ren Xiaosu's puzzled voice came from inside. "Fatty Luo? Why are you here?" "I'm here to save my friend. Let's not talk about anything else. I'm here with 2,000 nano warriors ready to enter the battlefield. Tell me your battle plan quickly so that I can organize an attack," Luolan said excitedly. Unlike Qingzhen, who doesn't like war, Luolan is a war maniac. In the past, the two Qing's combat brigades that he and Qingzhen led respectively have always been the main forces of the Qing. So, when it comes to fighting, Luolan actually gets excited. To be honest, in the past year or so, Luolan has been busy, but he hasn't really participated in many wars. Basically, he was busy being a troublemaker. It's not that he wants to be a troublemaker, it's just that the Qing family needs such a person to do some shady things, and there are not many people that Qingzhen can absolutely trust, so he is the only one who can do it. At this moment, Wang Yun and P5092, who were listening to Ren Xiaosu's phone call in the command tent, looked at each other. They just said that 2,000 barbarians suddenly appeared in the northwest, which made them very worried about some changes in the battle situation, but it turned out that reinforcements came. Sun Yu's perception will not be false. P5092 really didn't think that this would be reinforcements. Seeing that the ammunition on the defensive position was about to run out, and seeing that the enemy was going to increase its troops, P5092 looked calm on the surface, but he was actually very anxious. As a result, reinforcements came in the blink of an eye. Ren Xiaosu glanced at P5092 and said, "How can we get them to cooperate? We don't know much about the situation outside the Expeditionary Corps." At this time, Luolan suddenly said, "How about I try to attack tentatively first to see the strength of the barbarians?" However, P5092 suddenly took the phone and said calmly, "No, you can't enter the battlefield now. Although I am very grateful for your support to Zoan Mountain, your strength will not have any great impact on the battle situation, so I hope you can arrive near Ningxi River first and wait for our next battle plan. It is a good thing to have foreign aid, and the Nano warriors are indeed very strong, but if they fight the Expeditionary Corps head-on, 2,000 Nano warriors will not be the key to victory, so they still need to wait." At this time, the arrival of reinforcements can boost morale, but P5092 calmly analyzed all the situations and decided to let this southwestern force stand by. Luolan on the other side of the phone laughed cheerfully. "Okay, we obey the order. I just looked at the map. Ningxi River is 11 kilometers south of Zoan Mountain, 16 kilometers away from us. Our unit is expected to arrive in 40 minutes. We will contact you after arriving at the designated location." P5092 said, "Thank you, I look forward to your news. Take care." After that, both parties hung up the phone. P5092 took a deep breath and smiled. "As long as the Expeditionary Corps does not send reinforcements, we still have a glimmer of hope. Only a glimmer of hope." Sun Yu, a fair-skinned fat man beside him, muttered, "Why does it sound like we are still waiting to die? We are only a few thousand people, and the Expeditionary Corps has tens of thousands of people. It's good enough for us to have a glimmer of hope," P5092 said with a smile. Wang Yun observed P5092's expression and found that he was really relieved this time. It seems that the arrival of Luolan and others has given P5092 more confidence. As a result, at this moment, a combat staff officer suddenly ran in from outside. "Sir, position number 3 was almost broken through by the barbarians' hidden masters. Fortunately, the big liar took action, otherwise it would be over. Now position number 3 has forced the barbarians back with intensive firepower, but their ammunition is running out. I hope to get fire support. There's only one chapter today. This plot is coming to an end. Today I will sort out the subsequent plot. Chapter 960, The Cornerstone of War. Who has any food?" A soldier on the number 2 position shouted. "I remember someone put 2 compressed biscuits in his pocket when he had dinner. Hurry up and fill me up. I'm starving." The number 2 position was guarded by the 1st Regiment. They felt as if they had not left the position for a long time. In fact, it should have been only 4 hours, but for them, it was as long as 4 years. Everyone's physical strength was consumed in the battle. The soldiers were hungry quickly and had no time to eat. They could only hold on. Moreover, it was not enough to be hungry. There were also comrades who added insult to injury. I have farts, do you want to eat them? A group of rough men from the northwest were on the position, cursing and shooting. If the soldiers holding automatic rifles could kill a barbarian, they would shout excitedly. Until one by one, they shouted their voices hoarse. People's energy is limited, and ammunition is also limited. From the moment the full-scale war started, the offensive of the Expeditionary Corps did not stop for a minute or a second. However, the Expeditionary Corps will not be tired, because every time a new troop enters the battlefield, it is all the main force that has been well rested. The 6th Combat Brigade is different. They do not have so many soldiers to cope with the continuous consumption of the Expeditionary Corps. Everyone is constantly facing the offensive on the battlefield. After a long time, everyone will be tired and hungry. P5092 is in charge of the central dispatch. The 6th Combat Brigade was established with the expansion of the Northwest Army. Although there are many qualified officers in the army, they are all temporarily promoted, so they are a little flustered in the face of intense battles. For example, things like sending supplies to the battlefield still need P5092 to remind them. Fortunately, he now has Wang Yun as a partner, and he can get a quick answer to any information he asks. Batches of supplies were sent to the front line of the defensive position by logistics. The problem of hunger should be solved quickly, but the fatigue cannot be eliminated. At this time, after 4 hours of sniper fire suppression, Yang Xiaojin's shooting frequency gradually slowed down. In order to ensure the accuracy of the shooting, she must do this. If she still maintains the shooting frequency at the beginning, I am afraid that 3 out of 10 shots will miss. Moreover, the sequelae of long-term shooting also followed. The huge recoil of the anti-material sniper rifle was too much for Yang Xiaojin, who was a superhuman. Her shoulder sockets were slightly numb, and the fingers that pulled the trigger began to feel sore and swollen, and even trembled slightly. Her entire right arm began to lose strength. Ren Xiaosu asked loudly at the foot of the mountain, "Do you want to take a break? I see you are not in good condition." As a result, Yang Xiaojin glanced at him and continued to shoot. "Go back to your front line. You don't need to take care of me here. Others haven't rested yet, so why should I rest? If you run over from the front line again, I will shoot you." Ren Xiaosu, okay. Just by looking at Yang Xiaojin's frowned eyebrows and pursed lips, Ren Xiaosu could understand that the other party was enduring the pain of using a sniper rifle for a long time. He said nothing more, turned around and ran towards the number 4 position. The ammunition there was running out. The combat staff said that Commander P5092 had dispatched the reserve ammunition, but Ren Xiaosu was worried that there would be a gap in the middle, so he went to check the situation. At this time, P5092 not only dispatched ammunition, but also ordered people to move some drinking water to the front line to cool the machine guns. There was no other way. In order to ensure the normal use of these heavy machine guns, the soldiers could only bear the thirst for a while. Now is not the time to sympathize with the soldiers, and there is no condition to sympathize with everyone. Fortunately, everyone understands. At the beginning, Zhang Xiaoman asked you if he should let the soldiers drink the water first, and then use urine to cool the machine guns. Although it is a bit disgusting, it is the best of both worlds. As a result, P5092's answer was no. Urine has a lag, and the soldiers are now in a state of dehydration. Drinking water quickly replenishes the body's water, but in fact, not much urine can be produced. Some people think that there are many ways to have the best of both worlds on the battlefield, but that is because they have never experienced such a tragic battle. In an offensive and defensive war, one side must be exhausted. Now the Expeditionary Corps dare not stop. At this time, if they withdraw their troops for an hour, the Northwest Army on the defensive position will be able to breathe a sigh of relief. P5092 asked Wang Yun, "Has the big liar returned to position 2? "He has returned," Wang Yun said, "but the situation is not optimistic. Just now, he went to support position 3 and was besieged by dozens of masters of the enemy. He was almost left outside the position. Now he has finally fought back and is probably a little exhausted. But he said it's okay and he can still fight." P5092 shook his head. "It's really a bit tiring for one person to face dozens of barbarian masters. It's better to let him rest. How about Ji Xiang and I go to position 2 to support it?" It should be no problem to cooperate with the troops stationed there, Wang Yun said. No, you two must stay in the command center now. You must understand that you have more important things to do, P5092 said firmly. At this moment, the big liar was leaning on the bunker and panting. Jin Duan, the head of the regiment next to him, said, Commander Zhang Hushan. Don't call me by my real name, call me Big Liar. I've heard the name Big Liar for a long time, and I'm a little uncomfortable when I hear my real name at first, Big Liar said with a curse. Okay, Commander Big Liar, Jin Duan said, I see you look a little pale. We can still hold on now. You should take a rest first. Big Liar laughed and cursed, Commander Big Liar, what a weird name. As he was talking, a team of more than 10 heavy armored soldiers suddenly rushed out from behind the shields in the Expeditionary Corps, facing the number 2 position. These heavy armored soldiers advanced quickly under the gunfire. Seeing that they were about to break through the position, even heavy machine guns and grenades could not stop them. The heavy armored soldiers were advancing like a storm. When they were only 5 meters away from the defense line, they accelerated again, intending to break through the defense line in one fell swoop. As a result, a heavily armored soldier just grabbed the edge of the bunker with his hands and was about to jump, but he was kicked in the forehead by a big foot, breaking his neck. The Big Liar stretched out his hand and quickly jumped out of the defense line. Fire cover. Stop the barbarians behind them. These heavily armored barbarians are all in my hands. In just a moment, the soldiers behind the defense position had raised their guns, and the heavy machine guns on the defense line immediately formed an interwoven firepower network, isolating these heavily armored soldiers from the Expeditionary Corps behind them, so as to prevent other barbarians from catching up and killing the Big Liar. While killing the heavy armored soldiers, the Big Liar glanced at the Expeditionary Corps not far away who were suppressed by firepower and couldn't raise their heads, and exclaimed loudly, "You are good at this. The firepower suppression is beautiful. Leave the rest to me." The head of the regiment, Jin Duan, was anxiously directing the shooting of various combat sequences behind the defense line, and he must help the Big Liar to eliminate the trouble. Although they didn't have a good way to deal with the heavy armored soldiers, they could also contribute their own strength. At this point in the war, no one can stay out of it and be an idle person. This defensive position was definitely not defended by one of Yang Xiaojin, the Big Liar, Ren Xiaosu, P5092, Ji Xiang, and Wang Yun. Instead, it was defended by every soldier of the 6th Combat Brigade. Perhaps the extraordinary people are more dazzling in this war, but ordinary soldiers are the cornerstone of this war. Chapter 961. A miracle appears. While the Big Liar was fighting hard, Ren Xiaosu had just blocked a wave of barbarians' attack on the number 4 position on the other side and retreated to the rear for a short rest. At this time, the ammunition supply was finally transported to the front line. What surprised Ren Xiaosu was that Ling actually came to position number 4. He asked, "Is there something wrong?" "Nothing," Ling said. "I've calculated your ammunition, and there should be very little left." Ren Xiaosu smiled. "Are you saying that we are about to fail? If the defensive position falls, these nanorobits you got will also be buried here." "It doesn't matter." Zero seemed to no longer worry about the shortage of nanorobits. It said, "I've been thinking about it. In fact, the war in the Central Plains has nothing to do with the Northwest. Why do you have to stick to Zoan Mountain? This is not in line with rational judgment. If you retreat to the Northwest and watch the Wang family and the fire being consumed, it will be the most beneficial decision for the Northwest. Maybe in your eyes, we are different forces separated, but in our view, the only enemy at this time is the barbarians in the North. Whether it is the fire, the Wang family or the Northwest, they are all compatriots," Ren Xiaosu said. "Human beings are emotional animals. After the barbarians came to the Central Plains, from the beginning of their massacre of the city, all compatriots were destined to stand up and fight them to the death. Then why did the Qing family come here?" Ling asked. "Because they are friends," Ren Xiaosu said firmly. "Although Luo Lan is not a serious person and particularly likes to kill and burn people, he is a great friend." "Friends? What an exciting word. Are we friends now?" Ling asked. Ren Xiaosu suddenly asked back, "Do you think it counts?" Ling shook his head. "I don't know, your definition of friends is too complicated. But I see that you often define the relationship of friends based on whether you have paid for others. From this concept, we should not count, because I haven't paid anything for you." Ren Xiaosu smiled. "Actually, Sometimes it's not that complicated. Ling suddenly said, in my calculations, you didn't carry out very detailed ammunition control and management. Now there is only a 10% chance of winning, which will soon be less than 10%. Unless there is another miracle, you will not be able to turn the tide with your ability. The Expeditionary Corps has too many manpower. Miracle. Ren Xiaosu stood up with the help of the bunker. There is never a shortage of miracles in the human world. I believe miracles will definitely happen. Sun Yu, P5092 said, looking at the sand table in the command tent, are you still investigating the position I asked you to pay attention to before? Sun Yu was no longer fair-skinned at this time. There were dirty marks on his face from a mixture of sweat and dust. Now he looked more like a member of the Northwest Army than an outsider. He replied, I have paid attention to it, but the number of barbarians there has never exceeded 10,000. The barbarians seem to be attacking very quickly now, but the troop dispatch is very stable. In Sun Yu's perception, tens of thousands of barbarians are like a river of flames in his mind, and the river is always unblocked, without any congestion, which shows that the other side has a very smart commander in control of everything. It seems that the other side is also very clear that we still have a trump card. P5092 pointed to the 7 peaks, so, during the process of advancing, the barbarians always maintained a clever rhythm to evenly distribute the troops entering the battlefield. Even if we can knock down the peaks here, we can only kill tens of thousands of people, and the impact on the overall situation is not enough to win. Now the Nano warriors led by Luolan have reached the south of Zoan Mountain, but P5092 has not found the key to victory, which makes him feel a little powerless. At this time Sun Yu added, I reminded the young marshal before that someone attacked the sniper point from behind the mountain, but in fact, the experimental subjects that appeared that time were only 1/10 of them. Now there are still hundreds of experimental subjects gathered behind us. I am afraid that once we are defeated, they will climb up the mountain again and attack the defensive position from behind us. This news undoubtedly made P5092 feel heavier, and he asked Wang Yun, where's the young marshal now? The young marshal is at position number 4 and just helped them repel a group of barbarians, Wang Yun said. They just got replenished with ammunition, so they were caught by the barbarians. Do you want the young marshal to intercept and kill the experimental subjects behind us? But you have to understand that although the young marshal is strong, he is not a god. He has been fighting for 5 hours now. You see, the shooting frequency of the young marshal's wife has slowed down, and the big liar can't hold on any longer. How can the young marshal be an exception? Yet, P5092 sighed. Moreover, even if Ren Xiaosu is still in his peak condition, he probably couldn't face hundreds of experimental subjects alone. The experimental subjects that attacked Yang Xiaojin before were just transformed from humans in the Central Plains. According to Ren Xiaosu, there are many more powerful experimental subjects transformed from barbarians, but they have never appeared. If the strength of the experimental subject after transformation is determined by its lifetime, then how powerful will it be if the masters among the barbarians transform into terrifying monsters? P5092 can't let Ren Xiaosu take this risk. He turned to Ji Xiang and said, Ji Xiang, you may need to take action soon. Ji Xiang stood up straight. Understood, I'm just waiting for your words to knock down the 6 peaks. Not 6, P5092 denied, it's 7. Ji Xiang was obviously stunned for a moment. 7. You know, the 7th peak is the one behind them. If this one collapses, the entire defensive position will be buried under the mountain. This is the means that P5092 originally reserved for mutual destruction. Is he going to use it now? P5092 said, the last batch of ammunition has been transported to the front line. The last batch just transported to position 4 is the last batch. From now on, all positions will face the situation of running out of ammunition. The offensive of the Expeditionary Corps is more fierce than expected, and the ammunition consumption is faster than expected, so the position will soon fall. Ji Xiang looked at Wang Yun and found that the other party's expression did not show surprise, so Wang Yun knew about this matter a long time ago. Go and call the young marshal over, P5092 said. I need him to use the steam train to carry some soldiers away from here. This is not to escape, but to leave a little spark for this unit. Before this, P5092 knew that Ren Xiaosu had the ability to use the steam train, but could they leave? Once they left, Wang's side immediately took on all the pressure, so they could not leave. Now, P-5092 has determined that the defensive position is difficult to recover, so he plans to use 3/4 of his troops to delay the Expeditionary Corps, giving the remaining quarter of the soldiers some time to get on the train and leave. Then, he was ready to let Ji Xiang push down all the mountains, including the one behind them. Should we try again? What if the young marshal has other cards? Ji Xiang said, maybe there will be a miracle. Miracle. P-5092 smiled bitterly. As he smiled bitterly, a combat staff officer ran in anxiously. The ammunition at position number 1 has been used up, sir. What should we do now? It's over already. Wang Yun felt something was wrong. I clearly calculated that it would take at least half an hour to finish. The combat staff officer said with a bitter face. The barbarians suddenly withdrew the soldiers in the direction of position number 2 and concentrated their firepower to attack position number 1. There is no way. They can only use all their strength to suppress the firepower. Now the young marshal's wife seems to have killed one of their officers, which made the barbarians retreat temporarily, but if we wait for the barbarians to come up again, position number 1 will probably be breached. P-5092 said to Wang Yun, hurry, go find the young marshal and ask him to rush to position number 1, and tell him that the evacuation will start now. Then, P-5092 suddenly asked Ji Xiang, do you know that if we want to destroy the 7th peak, you need to stay here? Ji Xiang smiled, okay, I'm mentally prepared. Okay, P-5092 nodded, let's push down the mountain near position 1 now to buy some time. Go quickly. However, at this moment, Sun Yu suddenly raised his head and shouted, wait, there is another life feature in the northwest. P-5092 and others were stunned for a moment. Only one? If there is only one, there is no need to shout so loudly, right? Sun Yu said excitedly, because I have never sensed such a powerful life. You know, I have seen many extraordinary people, but I am afraid that the extraordinary people I have seen combined are about the same as this person, or even worse than this person. Everyone was shocked when this was said. All the extraordinary people Sun Yu had seen were probably hundreds. So many people combined were not as good as one person? What level of master is this? God? But before everyone could figure it out, Sun Yu shouted again, new life features have appeared in the north. There are tens of thousands of people, including ordinary people and thousands of life flames as powerful as the barbarian masters. They are approaching Zoyan Mountain quickly. Wait, the thousands of powerful life flames are too fast. How can they be so fast? P-5092 was silent for a while. Are you here to find the young marshal's reinforcements again? Wang Yun smiled and said, I would like to believe that they are reinforcements. A moment later, Ren Xiaosu was still resting in the number 4 position, and he was chatting with Ling. While chatting, there was a wolf howl outside Zoyan Mountain, as if a sharp sword had torn the sky apart. Ren Xiaosu suddenly looked back at the top of the mountain and saw a sturdy silver wolf standing on the top of the mountain, looking down at the expeditionary army below the mountain like a king. Ren Xiaosu smiled at Ling and said, see? A miracle has happened. Ling was stunned for a moment. He had discovered this grassland army and wolf pack from the north early in the morning, but before that he thought these people came to the central plains to take advantage of the situation. He didn't expect that the other party would also come to Zoyan Mountain, and it seemed that they were coming for Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu also knew very well who the people were. There is another chapter in the evening. Chapter 962 Queen of Thorns. Behind the mountain where the defensive position was based, there were hundreds of gray experimental subjects roaming in the mountains. They were ordered by Black Robe to stay here and kill all humans who planned to escape from here. Black Robe did not let them attack the defensive position directly, because there were people he stole from the Expeditionary Corps, such as Valentin, the original Vanguard commander. Many of these experimental subjects were surviving soldiers who were captured by him. If these barbarian experimental subjects appeared on the battlefield, the Expeditionary Corps would probably have a grudge against him, especially Valentin, a barbarian. He must not be seen by the people of the Expeditionary Corps. At this moment, the experimental subjects who had been crawling on the ground waiting for hunting suddenly turned their heads and looked behind them. There was actually a human breath coming from there. A breeze blew, and the pleasant fragrance drifted along the wind, like a rose suddenly blooming in the dark night. But the experimental subjects did not care whether it was a fragrance or a stench. They only knew that since humans came here, they must be killed. However, Before they could trace the source of the fragrance, the test subjects saw strange and dangerous vines spreading in the mountains. The fear from instincts made the test subjects retreat continuously. They stared at the creeper vines that kept approaching them with unusual caution. Valentin roared, and one test subject approached the creeper cautiously, wanting to grab the vine tentacles to see what it was. But at the moment when it just touched the creeper tentacles, the dense creepers on the ground suddenly bounced up at the same time, and all of them pierced into its body. This test subject that even bullets could not penetrate was actually pierced by the vines. The terrifying vines wrapped the test subject into a cocoon in an instant and dragged it into the mountains. Suddenly, all the test subjects were as if they were facing a great enemy. They had never seen such a strange plant before. The test subjects still retained a low IQ, and of course they knew how dangerous the creeper vines were. Seeing that these experimental subjects no longer actively provoked the creepers, the maid in the mountains and fields slowly walked out. "I came all the way here and saw you dirty things. It's really unlucky." The experimental subjects silently looked at the woman opposite them, and saw that all 10 fingers of her hands were wearing jeweled rings, and she wore a string of shining pearl necklaces around her neck. She looked as rich as she could be. Moreover, even in the mountains, she was wearing a purple cheongsam. Who would wear this when fighting? Unless they are very confident. In fact, the maid is really confident now. At the beginning, after she collected the creepers from the number 61 barrier, she never really tested how strong her ability was. She just felt that she had endless energy. Later, after she and Ren Xiaosu parted from the holy mountain, she was not idle. The maid went all the way to the northwest, using bandits to test her own limits. As a result, the bandits were too weak. After fighting the bandits all the way, she still didn't understand the limit of her ability. But anyway, now she is very confident. At this time, Zhou Yingsu could still hear the gunshots from the other side of the mountain through the mountain. The battle there must be very fierce. She finally caught up with them after rushing so hard. Zhou Yingsu glanced at the experimental subjects, but she did not hide her disgust in her eyes, as if looking at this ugly thing for one more time would dirty her eyes. It was strange, there was no black robe as the master said. No matter what, let's kill them first. Thinking of this, the vines around the maid began to sweep towards the experimental subjects. When the experimental subjects wanted to escape, they found that the creeper vines had completely surrounded them. Yes, the maid surrounded all the experimental subjects by herself. The hundreds of experimental subjects that the black robe had painstakingly transformed were about to be annihilated in the vines. Valentin led the experimental subjects to tear a way out of the vines, but no matter how powerful it was, it could only struggle in vain in front of the creeper that could destroy a city. The experimental subject kept tearing off the vines that were entangled in his body, but new vines wrapped around him, and it seemed that the vines would never be pulled off. "Stop struggling, I'll deal with you here, and I have to rush to save my master," the maid said, and the vines all over the mountain suddenly went crazy, completely submerging hundreds of experimental subjects. It only took a second for all the experimental subjects to be silent. Under the cover of this level of ability, the battle was like an adult beating a child with a completely unbalanced strength. There was no suspense at all. The maid took out a satellite phone from her exquisite handbag. "Master, the experimental subjects in the back mountain have been dealt with, but I didn't see the black robe you mentioned." Ren Xiaosu's voice came from the phone. "Maybe it ran away early again, but it's okay, it can't escape this time." "Okay, then I'll go to the front battlefield to help now," said the maid. "No need," Ren Xiaosu said, "your ability cannot be exposed to everyone's eyes now, otherwise it will be easy to associate it with the destruction of barrier number 61. It's a bit unclear, and it will be bad if public opinion attacks you. Why bother with them about this?" "I'm not afraid of them," Zhou Yingsu said nonchalantly. "Okay, if you have the spare power, secretly hunt down the defeated barbarians in the mountains," Ren Xiaosu said and hung up the phone. The maid curled her lips and muttered, "What a ruthless person. I'm a top-level extraordinary person now. You're in a hurry to hang up the phone without saying a few more words. It's really ruthless." After that, the maid walked towards the mountains, and the vines on the ground continued to extend into the mountains and paved all the paths in the mountains with her footsteps. But what did the master say just now? Is the Expeditionary Corps going to be defeated? Did the Northwest Army almost lose to the Expeditionary Corps before? Why are these barbarians suddenly going to be defeated? Is there anyone else coming to save the master? At this moment, Ren Xiaosu was looking at the Wolf King on the top of the mountain, and the Wolf King was also looking at him silently. Ren Xiaosu was very sure that this was the Wolf King he had dealt with before. He had also given him black medicine, and he liked it very much. Sometimes, Ren Xiaosu was still wondering where those wolves had gone and why he had never heard of them again. Normally, after the wolf pack grew stronger, even if they lived in the wilderness, there should be people who had seen them, but those wolves seemed to have evaporated from the face of the earth. Now Ren Xiaosu understood that the wolf pack had followed Yan Liwen to the grassland. And Yan Liwen was the new king of the grassland. Suddenly, a horn sounded in Zoyan Mountain. The vicissitudes of the horn sounded a little hasty and panicked. The barbarians who were originally attacking the defensive position suddenly began to retreat. Chapter 963 Black Robe Must Die. In Zoyan Mountain, the barbarians of the Expeditionary Corps were charging fearlessly, but when the Wolf King on the top of the mountain appeared, their originally orderly attack formation suddenly became chaotic. The sound of horns rang out in the valley, as if urging the front-line troops to retreat quickly. P5092 carefully observed the movements of the barbarians. He was sure that the barbarians were not cheating, but really retreating. He also looked up at the giant wolf on the top of the mountain, and then asked Wang Yun, "Has anyone seen this kind of mutant wolf before?" Wang Yun carefully searched the memories in his mind. The intelligence about the wolf pack appeared several times. The first time was near the number 113 barrier, but this barrier has been destroyed because of the Jingshan earthquake. The second time was on the Li family's territory. It is said that there was a wolf pack attacking the army. Is there any connection with the young marshal? P5092 asked. Yes, Wang Yun said. The young marshal first lived in fortress number 113, and later he went to the Li family. P5092 sighed. It was said before that even the young marshal could not create any miracles in the face of tens of thousands of barbarians, but this miracle happened immediately. However, they could not see what was happening outside the mountain, so it was difficult to judge what was going on. P5092 turned to look at Sun Yu. Based on your perception, can you tell me about the situation outside? The reinforcements outside did not stop at all after arriving at Zoyan Mountain. First, thousands of powerful life forms broke into the Expeditionary Corps, and then the life signs of the barbarians were rapidly decreasing. Sun Yu said, according to the life signs from the north and the giant wolves that have appeared now, I think the thousands of life forms that are rushing quickly may be a wolf pack composed of 3,000 giant wolves. As if to confirm Sun Yu's words, the Wolf King stood on the top of the mountain and roared, and the sharp wolf howl seemed to be able to pierce everyone's heart and lungs. The mountain wind blew, and the Wolf King's silver long hair fluttered in the wind, like a fluttering royal flag. These wolves rushed so fast that the barbarians had no time to form an effective defensive formation. In just a moment, they were killed in the rear. Sun Yu continued, now only the wolves have arrived, and the ordinary reinforcements in the rear are still approaching quickly. It is expected to arrive at the battlefield in about 10 minutes. As he spoke, Sun Yu even used black flags to simulate the dynamics of the wolf pack on the sand table. Powerful wolf pack, P5092 suddenly laughed, and he didn't know why he suddenly felt very excited. It was rare for him to have such an emotion, just because the surprise came too suddenly and was too shocking. To be honest, P5092 couldn't imagine what kind of person Ren Xiaosu knew, who could drive such a powerful wolf pack to rush to Zoyan Mountain. But he could imagine that there were thousands of strong wolves hunting outside Zoyan Mountain at this time. They drove the Expeditionary Corps into the mountains like treating antelopes and killed them quickly. At this time, P5092 pointed at the evacuating barbarians and turned to ask Wang Yun, if we leave all these barbarians in this battlefield, will we have enough ammunition to fight them? Wang Yun said, if it's just these barbarians, and there are no other new expeditionary troops entering the battlefield, then our ammunition is definitely enough. After that, P5092 said to Ji Xiang excitedly, push down all 6 peaks and cut off the retreat of these expeditionary corps. Although the reinforcements are powerful, our Northwest Army is not bad either. They are fighting behind the enemy. We must not let these barbarians go back to support. We must separate their battlefield to reduce the pressure on our reinforcements. Ji Xiang smiled and said, got it. P5092 thought very clearly that although the reinforcements were powerful, if these barbarians rush back, the enemy would definitely not be in a good situation. These days, P5092 racked his brains to think about how to turn defeat into victory, and even did not sleep for 2 days and 2 nights, just because he did not want these people from the northwest to die here. However, he was waiting for the opportunity to win, but the Expeditionary Corps had been playing it safe and not giving them this opportunity. Now, this opportunity has appeared. It is time to counterattack. The next moment, P5092 said to Wang Yun, "Contact Luolan, ask them to attack from the south and reach the battlefield with us. Tell him that I will leave a gap in the north to give the barbarians a chance of survival. Let him make full use of the mobility of the nano warriors and hunt down the barbarians." At this time, Luolan was standing by a river in the south of Zoan Mountain, playing with water out of boredom. Joki said, "We have been traveling for such a long time, and now we are just waiting like this." Luolan laughed cheerfully and said, "What's there to be afraid of waiting? Now you and I are not the commanders on the battlefield. When you come here, you must obey orders. It doesn't mean that you come to rescue them, so you should pretend to be the most awesome person. Marching and fighting require rules. We don't know what is going on inside now, so of course we have to obey orders." At this time, the communicator trotted over and conveyed P5092's words. Luolan chuckled. He turned around and shouted to the soldiers, "Brothers, get to work." As he spoke, a crisp sound of gun bolts rang out in the army composed of nano warriors. After Li had nanorbits, they seemed to think that powerful warriors should have powerful weapons, so they made nanite knives. The nanorbits moved quickly on the blade to achieve the effect of polymer cutting. But in the eyes of Luolan and Qingzhen, if there are guns, why not choose them? Are guns not useful? So, this time, all the nano warriors he brought carried firearms. The only difference was that these soldiers were all equipped with 40mm caliber howitzers that could be loaded and unloaded on the guns. In Qingzhen's words, the physical fitness of nano warriors is only the same as that of barbarians, so to fight barbarians, you must have the attitude of fighting barbarians, and to kill people, you must use heavy weapons. In fact, the 40mm portable howitzer is not expensive, but it is a bit scary that all 2,000 troops carry this thing. Nowadays, many people have not realized that in addition to the large territory, the Qing family is probably the most powerful consortium in terms of strength. During the period of dormancy in the past few years, Qingzhen had been controlling the army to search for the technology that humans had lost, and used all financial and material resources to develop all of this. So, time gave him a satisfactory answer. Of course, it was a bit difficult for the Qing family to equip all 2,000 people with howitzers. They needed to be urgently deployed from military factories or even from active troops. But since they were here to save their friends, they had to be sincere in saving their friends. As for the weight of the soldiers, the nano warriors didn't have to consider that at all. 2,000 nano warriors began to march into the mountains, planning to destroy all the living barbarians. A coin called fate was thrown high at the beginning of the war. It kept spinning and flying in the air. As long as it didn't fall, no one knew who would win the final victory. And now, this coin of fate finally fell. The peaks in Zoyan Mountain began to collapse, and huge rocks fell down. The troops of the Expeditionary Corps who were evacuating began to wail. These barbarians who were confident of victory finally began to fear, and the mood of despair began to spread in the hearts of all the barbarians. 6 peaks collapsed at the same time, and huge dust and haze were lifted into the sky, so that even the sky dimmed, as if covered by dark clouds. The sound of glaciers collapsing was endless, and the rumbling sound after the mountain fell to the ground was the most magnificent scenery in the world. Everyone has only seen waterfalls rushing down, but few people have seen mountains pouring down. Some of the barbarians who wanted to retreat were directly pressed under the mountain, and the rest were forced to turn around and return to the battlefield, but they no longer had the will to fight. At this time, some barbarians suddenly found that there was a gap in the north and south directions, so the barbarians began to flee in the north and south directions respectively. P5092 After seeing this scene, the last stone in his heart was put down, because now is the time to really start harvesting the battlefield. The barbarians will only run away with their heads in their hands, and they will never have the courage to fight back. What should we do now? Chase these deserters? Ji Ziyang asked. But P5092 shook his head and said, "It is enough for Luolan to hunt down these deserters. Pass the order." We will carry weapons now and go directly to form a siege with the reinforcements outside the mountain to assist them in catching all these expeditionary forces in one fell swoop. However, as soon as P-5092 finished speaking, they saw Ren Xiaosu running all the way to the door of the command tent. Ren Xiaosu grabbed Sun Yu and asked, "Is there any sign of life left by a single person near Zoan Mountain?" Sun Yu asked, "A single person? Alone?" "Yes, alone." Ren Xiaosu said firmly. "Yes, there was a life form that was with the experimental subject before, and then it left alone. It took a detour from there before Luolan and the others arrived in the south. Now it has gone around in a big circle and is leaving quickly from the north," Sun Yu said, "but now the life forms of the experimental subjects that were guarding behind us have all disappeared." Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. "That's what I'm looking for. Come on, I'll take you to the north. As long as it doesn't die in this war, I won't be at ease." In fact, Ren Xiaosu really wants to see someone now. In the past year or so, he has missed the other person every day and night since they separated. Although the two sides have no blood relationship, they have long regarded each other as relatives. If it were in the past, Ren Xiaosu would probably go to find Yan Liwen without hesitation. As for whether the war would be won or not, and whether there would be hidden dangers for mankind in the future, it would be none of his business. But now Ren Xiaosu seems to be different. He may still be a little selfish, but he understands what his choice means and how many lives it affects. At this point, the frontal battlefield was already certain to win, so there was no need for Ren Xiaosu to stay here any longer. He glanced at the direction where the Wolf King appeared and said, "Wait for me. I'll be back soon after I kill Black Robe. Although I really want to find you right now, Black Robe must die. Sorry, the back of my head hurts a little. I'm going to sleep for an hour. There are still 2 chapters to come in the evening." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 964, What time is it now and we are still developing the Northwest? On the front battlefield, a group of soldiers from the 6th Combat Brigade of the Northwest were climbing over the bunkers of the defensive positions one by one. Before this, they had been holding on to this line of defense. The bunker defense line was their lifeline. Once a barbarian broke through here, their comrades would die. Now, the bodies of barbarians were everywhere outside this line of defense, piled up all over the mountains. The 6th Combat Brigade, with a force of 6,000 people, dragged the 70,000 people of the Expeditionary Corps here for more than 10 days. If this battle situation were to be spread out, I'm afraid the entire Barrier Alliance would be shocked. If it weren't for them, then these 70,000 troops would not hesitate to join the battlefield of Daniu Mountain, posing a huge threat to the entire Wang family and even the south. When the 6th Combat Brigade climbed out of the defense line, some soldiers subconsciously looked back at the bunker behind them. This was the first time they had seen it from the outside in the war. Some soldiers felt a lump in their throats, thinking that this was the place they had to defend with their lives before. Now, it was finally their turn to fight back. The dust and haze caused by the collapse of the mountain gradually dissipated, the sky became bright, and the soldiers suddenly felt proud. The officer in front shouted, "Don't look, follow the team, the war is not over yet, now is the time for us to fight tooth for tooth and blood for blood." Yes, the war is not over yet. Thinking of this, the soldiers resolutely rushed out of the mountain. As their pace quickened, they gradually heard the wailing of the barbarians and the roar of the wolf pack, intertwined and mixed. The big liar took the lead and rushed to the front. When everyone climbed over the ruins of the collapsed mountain, the view in front of them suddenly opened up. I saw the wolf pack in front of me shuttled among the people of the Expeditionary Army. Every 300 wolves formed a group, and they kept grinding the formation of the Expeditionary Army on the battlefield like saw teeth. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, P-5092 would hardly have thought that the wolf pack fighting was so methodical. When the wolf pack rushed forward, there would be a strongest gray giant wolf rushing in front of the team, and it was not afraid even if the barbarian's axe hit it. When the wolf pack began to move, the giant wolves that had been conserving their energy immediately fell behind. If any barbarians wanted to take advantage of the chaos to chase them, they would see their bloody mouths. These 3,000 giant wolves were like a no man's land in the Expeditionary Army. They were more brave than humans and had strong execution capabilities. If a companion in the wolf pack was killed, they would not have the slightest regret. They would simply change their formation and then perform their tasks again. P5092 looked up at the Wolf King on the top of the mountain next to him. The giant wolf was always standing on the top of the mountain dispatching all the soldiers. However, at this moment, the Wolf King suddenly jumped off the cliff and rushed straight out of the mountain from the crowd of barbarians. No barbarian could stop it. Wait, where is it going? Zhang Xiaoman asked in confusion. Why is it leaving? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone saw a group of men riding horses outside the battlefield, led by a man wearing a bronze fang mask. The Wolf King quickly ran to the bronze fangs and rubbed his sleeves affectionately. P5092 was secretly shocked when he saw this scene in the military telescope. He said to Wang Yun and others beside him, the fire species got intelligence that the grassland people had a new young hero. Now it is really amazing to see it with my own eyes. Then, he saw that the young hero jumped from the horse to the Wolf King's back, and then slowly walked towards the battlefield under the Wolf King's camel. Beside the young hero, tens of thousands of grassland men on horseback jumped out from his side, rushing towards the expeditionary corps like a tide on the sea, forming a huge tsunami-like scene. Above the sky, a huge shadow flashed across the ground. Everyone looked up and saw that it was a huge eagle flying low in the sky. When it flew over the expeditionary corps, it directly grabbed two barbarians with its claws and flew back into the sky, and then dropped the two barbarians far away. The barbarian who was left behind screamed loudly in the air, and finally fell to his death in the crowd. The grassland people cheered like a landslide, as if they had won the victory. Regardless of the fighting power of these people, their mentality is quite good. For P5092 and others, fighting this battle requires a reason, such as the survival of the human race in the Central Plains, or for something else. But for the grassland people, it is all very simple. For the master. If there is a war correspondent here asking the grassland people why they came to support Zoan Mountain, Hassan would probably scratch the back of his head and answer that the master asked us to come. It's that simple. Wang Yun said, I remember this falcon. It circled above our position before. At the time, I thought it was just a wild eagle, but I didn't expect it to be a grassland people's eagle. It seems that they have been paying attention to the battle here for a long time, said Zhang Xiaoman. P5092 began to pass on the order, attention, all combat sequences, use the ruins of the mountain where we are now as cover, and shoot at the expeditionary corps. Be careful not to hurt the wolves and the grassland people. What we need to do now is to help these reinforcements to contain the barbarians. The Northwest Army was already at the end of its strength, so the key to victory was still the reinforcements. P5092 led everyone to rush over to assist the grassland people. This key point must not be mistaken. However, after the young hero with the bronze fang mask entered the battlefield, he did not join the fight, but drove the Wolf King to cross directly through the army and headed straight for P5092's position. Wang Yun muttered, this is too bold. What if we are surrounded and killed by the expeditionary corps? As soon as the voice fell, there were indeed smart people in the expeditionary corps who saw at a glance that Yan Liwen was the leader of the reinforcements, so they immediately organized troops to surround him. But what surprised the expeditionary corps was that when they began to kill the boy on the wolf's back, the wolves and the grassland people did not go to rescue him. The next moment, a barbarian who rushed towards Yan Liwen was suddenly tripped by a stone under his feet, and when he fell, the giant axe in his hand lost balance and accidentally chopped down the Achilles tendon of another barbarian. This group of barbarians fell one after another like dominoes because of inexplicable things, and some even died tragically on the spot due to accidents. P5092 They felt absurd watching this scene, as if the elite expeditionary corps who had fought with them before had suddenly contracted polio. Is this still the barbarian they fought with? The young hero on the wolf's back is too evil. How come he seems to be accompanied by disasters? Exclamation mark. No wonder the other party dared to cross the battlefield alone. It turned out that he had such a strong confidence. P5092 thought to himself, although the grassland people came to rescue Zhuo Yunshan this time, they had conquered barrier number 176 before. If such a powerful person is still on the grassland, then the Central Plains is still very dangerous. He also didn't know what the relationship between the other party and Ren Xiaosu was. Did Ren Xiaosu help the other party before, so the other party came to support him? P5092 thought about all this, because the grassland people were also a hidden danger to the Central Plains, so he was worried that these grassland people would turn against him at the last minute. Don't just drive away the Expeditionary Corps, and then the grassland people come again. At this time, Yan Liwen had driven the people to the front of P5092's line, and the 6th Combat Brigade also ceased fire because of the arrival of the other party. Both sides were silent, and P5092 and the others didn't know how to greet each other. As a result, after both sides were silent for 2 minutes, Yan Liwen suddenly hesitated and asked, "Where's my brother? Doesn't he want to see me?" P5092 they looked at each other. Brother? Brother? This new master on the grassland, could it be the younger brother of their young marshal? If this is true, then the Northwest will have a powerful foreign aid for no reason. Question mark. The big liar muttered, "The most correct decision I made in my life is probably to persuade the young marshal to go to Daxing Northwest. If I persuade this one, I will bring a bunch of people." P5092 the corner of his mouth twitched. At this time, he still mentioned Daxing Northwest. There will be another chapter later. Chapter 965 I finally found you. This guy, Zhang Xiaoman looked at Yan Liwen's bronze fang visor, and for a moment he didn't know how to address him. "This hero, the brother you are talking about, is it Ren Xiaosu?" Yan Liwen looked at Zhang Xiaoman. "Yes, my name is Yan Liwen," Zhang Xiaoman excitedly said to P5092 beside him. "It's really Liwen." When the young marshal and I were in the Sharp Knife Company, he mentioned several times that he would go find his brother after destroying the Zhuang family. This search lasted for more than a year. At this point, the big liar also looked at Yan Liwen. "Hello, I'm the big liar in charge of field operations at Fortress 178. Your brother asked me to help find you before, but there has been no news from you. I didn't expect you to go to the north. You don't know how much effort your brother has spent to find you. He even went to the Holy Mountain of Fire to find you, but he didn't find you." Wang Yun was stunned for a moment. Ren Xiaosu went to the Holy Mountain just to find this guy? That time was really dangerous. Yan Liwen listened to all this silently. It turned out that the other party had been looking for him and was in danger for him. He asked again, "Where is my brother? Where is he? My servants Hawk saw him in your position." "Oh, just now he saw that the situation on the front battlefield was settled, so he took the young marshal's wife and a white fat man to the north, saying that he wanted to kill the Black Robe first. You may not know who the Black Robe is. He is an intelligent body among the experimental subjects," Zhang Xiaoman explained, "but he should be back soon. I feel that it won't take long for him to kill the Black Robe." As a result, as soon as he finished speaking, everyone saw Yan Liwen driving the Wolf King to turn around and walk back, muttering, "North." Gradually, the Wolf King ran faster and faster. The man and the wolf walked through the battlefield, as if they didn't take the barbarians around them seriously at all. The big liar looked at Yan Liwen's departing back and said, "It can be seen that the brothers have a deep affection. I wonder if I can trick him into taking the people from the grasslands to the northwest of Daxing. You know, we have a very good pasture in the northwest." Wang Yun suddenly said. When the number 176 barrier was broken for the first time, someone saw him smash the barrier from a distance. No one knows how he did it. How come these two brothers are more powerful than each other? To be honest, we are fighting so hard. If you, the big liar, could help the young commander find him earlier, we wouldn't have to fight so hard. I'm afraid this young hero can fight against 20,000 troops by himself. The era of the rise of the gods is really coming. When this era begins, only 2 people can suppress the power of the consortium by themselves, and now, there are more and more such people. But Wang Yun suddenly thought, how come these people seem to have 1,000 connections with Ren Xiaosu? Now, if the consortium of the Barrier Alliance knew Ren Xiaosu's background, they should be glad that Ren Xiaosu has no intention of competing for the world, right? When Yan Liwen arrived at the rear, Xiaoyu was standing outside the battlefield on horseback, with Pulanki guarding beside her. Xiaoyu asked, "Have you found your brother?" He went to the north. Yan Liwen grabbed Xiaoyu from the horse and put her on the Wolf King's back. "Let's go find him." In the wilderness, Hu Pao hid his tracks and fled to the north. When he crawled on the ground and saw the wolf pack from a distance, he realized that the Expeditionary Corps had already lost. Now not only the Expeditionary Corps of Zoan Mountain began to collapse, but also the people of Dania Mountain would retreat quickly after hearing the news of Zoan Mountain. right? However, Hupeo was not depressed. Just as he said to Valentin, he never thought that the Expeditionary Corps could win the final victory from the beginning. He urged the Expeditionary Corps to come to the Central Plains because he coveted the country in the north, but at that time the barbarians were too powerful, especially the general, so he did not dare to do it. Now, there are 190,000 expeditionary troops, but only a few can return. This way, it has too much room for maneuver. Even if it turns the entire northern country into its territory, it doesn't seem to be a difficult task. Moreover, Hupeo was thinking that it would be great if the people of the Central Plains could also surround and kill the general here. In this way, it would no longer have any opponents in the north. However, when thinking about this, Hupeo suddenly stopped slowly. It looked at the boy who was smiling at it in the wilderness in front of it, and its heart was actually trembling. Just over a month ago, it was this boy who caused it to become black all over. Whenever Hupeo thought of this, he would hate Ren Xiaosu. Moreover, yesterday on the top of the mountain, the opponent showed his determination to kill him. Hupeo seems powerful, but in fact, he has always been afraid and worried in his heart. He's extremely confident in front of humans, but if he is really confident, he will not flee in such a hurry. Ren Xiaosu looked at the man in black robe in front of him. Why, are you going to escape to the north now? The Expeditionary Corps battle hasn't even finished yet, and you want to run away. The man in black robe said hoarsely, what does the Expeditionary Corps war have to do with me? It's just what I want if they lose. Ren Xiaosu asked doubtfully, isn't it hard for you to live? You always think about fighting and killing all day long. You wreak havoc in the southwest and now you wreak havoc in the Central Plains. People like you shouldn't live in this world. The man in black robe said in a deep voice, I also want a quiet life, but can I live a normal life like you? Can you humans accept me? You can't do it. Human nature rejects aliens. Will you allow aliens to live among you? Or put me in a zoo for exhibition, or make me into a specimen? Isn't this what humans like to do? I used to be a human, so I know very well the attitude of humans towards aliens. There is no possibility of coexistence between us. Your logic is wrong, Ren Xiaosu said curiously. It is you who hunts humans as soon as you appear. How can humans live in peace with you? I kill people for survival. When the Qing family saw us in Jingshan, they wanted to catch us all, didn't they? The black robe said in a fierce voice, it's meaningless for me to tell you this. What are you doing here? Are you here to debate with me? Why, do you have to choose a pro and con side and then convince each other? Forget it. In an instant, the black robe suddenly retreated. Sniper bullets flew from the distance in the wilderness, but no one expected that the black robe would be smart this time and dodge in advance. The black robe laughed wildly, I know you have an ambush, don't use the same trick. Laughing, the black robe looked down at his chest and found a hole. The black robe was sure that he had dodged in advance, so why did he get shot again? At this time, Yang Xiaojin's voice came from Ren Xiaosu's earphone, I know the special feature of the black bullet. As long as the first shot hits, no matter where it hits, if the target is not dead, then the second shot will kill. I aimed at him, but he did dodge my trajectory in advance. The trajectory of the second black bullet will turn, and the shot will kill. Ren Xiaosu was also stunned when he heard this. It was the first time he knew that the black bullet could have such an effect. The black robe looked at his chest silently. In his world, he was the master and the center of this world, so he never thought that he would die so easily. However, his chest had been pierced by the black bullet, and he could feel his vitality rapidly fading away. The black robe looked at Ren Xiaosu and said in a daze, I obviously dodged it. No, this is not an ordinary sniper bullet. What is this? Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, my opponent, this is our argument. The black robe fell down slowly and unwillingly. He wanted to remember the appearance of the boy in front of him firmly in his mind, but he suddenly found that the other party's eyes were not on him, but looking behind him. As the black robe fell down, Ren Xiaosu stared at the giant wolf running towards him from the south. There was no one in the wilderness, and the giant wolf and the person on its back seemed so abrupt but pleasantly surprised. This day was so long that Ren Xiaosu thought he would never be able to wait any longer. They were like the two ends of a long river of time, with a long river of bright stars and a bottomless black hole between them. All that could not be found even if one looked at it from afar. On the long road of life, Ren Xiaosu once walked through the long street alone, watching the lights in his life go out one by one. Woody was gone, Sister Xiaoyu was gone, and Lin was gone. At that moment, he felt a little dazed and lonely. In fact, he could understand the loneliness that Lin was talking about at some point. It was probably like standing on that dim long street and turning around, with no one waiting for you behind you, and then all the lights went out. Ren Xiaosu stood there silently, watching the other person approach quickly, and his nose suddenly felt sore. I finally found you. Good night, everyone. You guys who have been shouting for a long time, can you vote now? Chapter 966 Reunion Moment. Brother, I want to go hunting with you, too. Ren Xiaosu looked at the boy who slowly jumped off the Wolf King's back and walked towards him. His ears seemed to still echo with the boy's words. In a blink of an eye, the boy had grown taller. Before, Xiaoluan was only as tall as his chest, but now he was almost as tall as him. It seemed that nothing had changed between them. Ren Xiaosu could also feel the eagerness in the boy's eyes. However, the boy had a bronze fang mask on his face. He was no longer the little follower behind him, but the new king of the grassland. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "You've grown taller." Yan Luan took off his mask, revealing his handsome face. "Brother, you've gotten a little tanned." As he said that, Yan Luan actually quickened his pace and hugged Ren Xiaosu. In the distance, Yang Xiaojin removed her disguise, put away her black sniper and walked towards this side, but she did not disturb the reunion of the two brothers. She knew Ren Xiaosu very well, so she knew clearly how much he longed for this day to come. When Sister Xiaoyu saw Yang Xiaojin, she wiped her tears with her sleeves and walked towards Yang Xiaojin. "Xiaojin hasn't changed at all, you're still as beautiful." At this time, Yang Xiaojin put away all the fierce aura in her body, and became shy as if she was meeting a parent. "Sister Xiaoyu, you haven't changed at all." Sister Xiaoyu pulled Yang Xiaojin to the side, and while walking, she took out a pair of gold bracelets from her pocket and put them on Yang Xiaojin's hands. "I knew I would be able to find you when I came to the south from the grassland this time, so this is a gold bracelet I asked Hassan to make specially for you, as a gift for our reunion after a long separation." Now Yan Luan is already the lord of the grassland, and he has absolutely no shortage of gold, so Sister Xiaoyu was very generous when she spent. The pair of gold bracelets was so heavy that it must have weighed more than 200 grams. If this were in the Central Plains, only a wealthy family could afford it when they were buying the 3 golds and 5 golds needed for a wedding. According to Sister Xiaoyu, although Ren Xiaosu and Yan Luan were poor before, if their status develops in the future, there will probably not be many people in the entire barrier who can match their status. Therefore, Ren Xiaosu and Yan Luan must have a good appearance when they marry and have children. In the future, they will also be a wealthy family, and maybe others will think that they are a wealthy and prestigious family. Yang Xiaojin often flirts with this coward in front of Ren Xiaosu, but she is particularly shy in front of Sister Xiaoyu, for fear of leaving a bad impression on Sister Xiaoyu. The two girls walked to the side, leaving Ren Xiaosu and Yan Luan to reminisce about the past. No one noticed that in the distance, Sun Yu was still lying on the wilderness muttering, "What's the situation now, can I come out?" Just now, Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojin teamed up to kill He Pao, and let him hide here, and he must not come out without Ren Xiaosu. As a result, in the blink of an eye, everyone forgot about him. At this time, Ren Xiaosu checked the body of the black-robed man, and after confirming that he was dead, he still stabbed him twice more. To be honest, this guy seems to be haunting. Even the nuclear bomb didn't kill him. Ren Xiaosu was really afraid that he would suddenly stand up and run away. This kind of insidious thing should be completely dead before people can be relieved. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yan Luan. "How did you get to the grassland?" As he said, the two found a big rock and sat on it side by side. Yan Luan explained, "I saw you being pierced by a spear with my own eyes. When the flood was about to come, a wolf pack suddenly appeared and took me and Sister Xiaoyu and went north. Later, I wanted to take revenge, so I thought I should build my own power first. I thought about what you said about the grasslands being a place of ignorance, and my ability is just suitable for creating gods there. Is it hard to unify the grassland?" Ren Xiaosu asked. Yan Luan smiled and shook his head. "It's not hard. There were still tough battles to fight, but luck was better. Huazhong actually captured the most powerful Khan on the grassland." Ren Xiaosu was a little amused when he heard this. "I went to the Holy Mountain just because I heard about this matter, but I didn't expect such a big mistake." Yan Liwen was stunned for a moment. What's going on? Huoshang and Anjing Temple formed a tacit understanding and announced to the outside world that they had captured experimental subject number 001. Ren Xiaosu explained, "At that time, I always thought that you might be experimental subject number 001, so I wanted to go to the Holy Mountain to save you. But that was just my guess. Neither of us can remember what happened in the past. Don't take this guess about experimental subject number 001 to heart." As a result, Yan Liwen suddenly fell silent after saying this. He asked softly, "Brother, do you remember something?" Ren Xiaosu shook his head. "No, why do you ask this suddenly?" "It's okay," Yan Liwen smiled. "I always feel that there is a blank in my memory, which feels weird. By the way, how did you become the young marshal of Fortress 178? "Oh, at that time I was caught in the flood and was rescued by Wang Shengzi of the Wang family. He took me to the 178th fortress," Ren Xiaosu said. "Then Mr. Zhang Jinglin told me that he could help me get revenge. They were just about to send troops to the Zhuang family. So I joined the Sharp Knife Company of the 178th fortress and fought all the way to the north. It was in that war that the 178th fortress destroyed the Zhuang family. Then I left the northwest and went to the central plains to look for your traces. Have you found Uncle Fugia and the others?" Yan Liwen asked. "Found them," Ren Xiaosu smiled. "They are doing business in the northwest now. Their business is very big. We have also found teacher Jiang Wu and Wang Yuqi." "That's good," Yan Liwen nodded. "You and sister-in-law are now—" "Ho-ha, Ren Xiaosu interrupted. "Don't ask such questions, kids." Both sides suddenly fell silent. Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt that he had said something wrong. Now Yan Liwen is no longer a child, but the new king of the grassland. Although the other party is still his younger brother, he has also grown up. Yan Liwen said after a long while, "Actually, I got the news about you a few months ago. When we captured Fortress number 176, I saw the newspaper of Hope Media in that sentence, but I didn't go to find you." "Why?" Ren Xiaosu was surprised. Yan Liwen said, "On the way to unify the grassland, I killed many people, some of whom should not be killed, but I killed them all to establish my authority. Many civilians in Fortress number 176 also died because of me. I failed to restrain my subordinates in time and almost caused the tragedy of massacre. And in that newspaper, there happened to be this sentence: 'Don't let the sorrow of the times become your sorrow.' I think I may not be worthy of seeing you." Ren Xiaosu laughed dumbly. "You think you are too much for doing these things, right? If you know what I did, I guess you will persuade me to be kinder. I went on a spring outing with my wife and children today. There's only one chapter. The epidemic in Luoyang has been maintained at 0 confirmed cases for a long time. Everything is slowly recovering. I, a player who has been stuck at home for 2 months, want to go out and see." Chapter 967, "The road is different, but we have never gone far. The battle on Zoyan Mountain is about to end. In fact, from the moment the wolf pack arrived, the failure of the Expeditionary Corps was foreseeable, and the rest was just harvesting the battlefield. The Qing clan Nano warriors led by Luo Lang fought all the way from the south to the north. How could the already defeated barbarians be the opponent of this elite force, not to mention that they were equipped with 2040mm caliber gun-mounted howitzers? If it was the Qing clan's frontal battlefield, they would definitely not use gun-mounted howitzers so intensively, but now, this unit is like a cheat, beating the defeated Expeditionary Corps without even the courage to fight back. On the other hand, the 6th Combat Brigade and the Wolfpack cooperated to continuously squeeze the Expeditionary Corps activity space until there were no more living barbarians on the battlefield. Hassan and others rode on strong horses to patrol the battlefield. When they saw the barbarians' giant axe, their eyes lit up. "This thing is good." As they said, they immediately organized people to collect all the axes as trophies of the grassland people. Although the Qing family provided the grassland people with firearms, the quantity was too small after all. The grassland people themselves did not have the ability to produce arms, so they were naturally happy to see the axe. At this time, P-5092 and others saw that the Zoyan Mountain War was over, so they came out from behind the temporary bunker one by one and walked towards the grassland people. When Hassan saw them, he led the grassland people to greet them enthusiastically. Hassan knew one thing very well, that this was the army led by his master's brother, so they were a family. However, when the two sides approached, The grassland people were stunned. They learned from Hassan that the barbarians from the north had besieged here for more than 10 days. They thought that this should be a battle between the Central Plains people and the barbarians. So, they thought that the Central Plains troops here should also be very elite. As a result, when they saw the soldiers of the 6th Combat Brigade, they saw that the soldiers were gray and dirty, and some had to lean on guns to stand firm. The number of people in the 6th Combat Brigade was a little less than expected, the clothes were worn and dirty, and the expressions were embarrassed. Purelanki asked from the side, "Are you all the people?" P5092 smiled and said, "Why, too few." Purelanki looked at the thousands of soldiers of the 6th Combat Brigade. They had also met the Expeditionary Corps in Yanchi, and later they had seen the fighting power of the barbarians during reconnaissance. So it was hard for him to imagine that such a small number of people could hold back the 70,000 barbarians of the Expeditionary Corps for more than 10 days. Purelanki walked up and patted P5092 on the chest. "You are men worthy of respect. If you have a chance to go to the grassland, we will definitely treat you with the best mare's milk." P5092 didn't mind. He smiled and said, "Thank you for coming to support us. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. But now is not the time to talk about this. We still have to rush to the north. It's just right. My master is also going to the north. It's just right for us to go together," Purelanki said, turning around and shouting to the grassland man behind him, "Bring the horses here." In order to make a long-distance raid, each of these grassland men drove 2 horses to avoid that one horse could not withstand such a long journey. Now, they are willing to give up their horses to the soldiers of the 6th Combat Brigade to ride, which is also a way to express their respect. Horizontal ellipsis. At this time, in the north of the Zoyan Mountain battlefield, Yan Liwen looked at Ren Xiaosu in a daze. He didn't expect that the thing he had been worried about for so long seemed to be nothing in Ren Xiaosu's eyes. Ren Xiaosu said, "In the war with the Zhuang family, I killed at least thousands of people. Later, I went to the 146th Rampart, where the entire combat brigade was almost destroyed. At that time, the 146th Rampart was destroyed, and there must have been civilians injured. Let's talk about the fall of the Zhou family's 73rd Rampart in Donghu. Although the rampart didn't collapse, it made a lot of noise. Then the Kong family's rampart also killed hundreds of people, and Lua Chang also killed thousands of people." Ren Xiaosu recalled, "Now that I think about it, I feel like a disaster. It seems that wherever I go, the rampart will be destroyed." Yan Liwen didn't speak for a long time. He suddenly realized that Ren Xiaosu had killed many more people than himself. Ren Xiaosu suddenly said, "I told you that just because I don't want you to go astray, but do you remember what I said? You should have a clear conscience. If you feel guilty, convince yourself not to. In fact, none of us are cut out to be heroes, so there's no need to put such heavy shackles on ourselves. The most important thing is to protect the people around us and keep them alive." Yan Liwen thought for a moment and nodded, "Yes. By the way, tell me about your time on the grassland," Ren Xiaosu said. "Is life hard there?" "It's very beautiful there," Yan Liwen said. "When I went there, a snowstorm turned the entire grassland into a white expanse, which looked extremely magnificent. When winter passed and spring came, the snow melted into streams. The rivers on the grassland were clear and winding, like a sky-blue scarf on the grassland. Cows and sheep were scattered on the grassland grazing, and herdsmen were riding on horses and whipping their whips. When a gust of wind blew, the grassland surged and rolled like waves. When it rains, everyone will gather in their tents and light a fire pit. There is the sound of rain outside, and the warmth of the fire pit warms the clothes to make them dry and comfortable." Yan Liwen continued, "But there are not many vegetables to eat there, so I specially asked Hassan to go to the northwest to find a horse bandit named Sule to trade with." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. Why did the name Sule sound very familiar? He seemed to have met such a horse bandit. However, in Yan Liwen's words, Ren Xiaosu was more concerned about the other party's expression and tone. He clearly understood that Yan Liwen liked it very much. Before this, Yan Liwen had also traveled to many places, but Ren Xiaosu had never seen Yan Liwen like a place so sincerely. Yan Liwen said softly, "My favorite place before was the market town outside the number 113 barrier. Although life was very hard, I would feel close to it every time I thought of it, but brother, we can't go back, right? The number 113 barrier was gone. and the number 113 market town no longer existed. Yan Liu's words were meaningful. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yan Liu and asked, "Come with me to the northwest, there are pastures there too." In fact, Ren Xiaosu already knew the answer, but he couldn't help but want to ask again. However, at this moment, the sound of horse hooves sounded in the south, and the crowd appeared on the horizon like small black dots, approaching quickly. Yan Liu stood up, and those who rushed over saw their master and the Wolf King, so they galloped their horses and cheered loudly. When the Grassland men and the 6th Combat Brigade came in front of the two, the Grassland men and the 6th Combat Brigade had clear formations. Everyone looked at their leaders. Although they got along with each other cordially, there was always an invisible line separating the two sides, even if the line was only 1 meter. Yan Liu looked at Ren Xiaosu. "Brother, I didn't dare to come to see you before because I was a little worried that you would be disappointed in me. This time, I came because you protected me in the past, and I also expected that one day I could protect you in return. I did it. Not only did I do it this time, but I will do it again in the future. However, I already belong to the grassland." Ren Xiaosu looked at Yan Liu silently. Yes, little Liu has finally grown up. Before this, Yan Liu became the new king of the grassland and had his own independent identity and power. He was no longer the little boy who would only follow behind Ren Xiaosu, but a real man, a king of the grassland. But at that time, his personality was still not complete, because he was afraid and did not dare to see Ren Xiaosu. There was always a shadow in his heart. In order to escape that shadow, he even wanted to give up his past feelings. But now, he faced it all and made his own decision without any fear or escape. At this moment, he was truly complete. Ren Xiaosu knew very well that a king of the grassland was already an eagle in the sky. How could an eagle survive under the wings of others? The grassland people are a complete ethnic group. Such an ethnic group will inevitably have various conflicts with the 178th fortress when they arrive in the northwest. Yan Liu would not want his people to live under someone else's roof. Therefore, Ren Xiaosu understands Yan Liu's choice. At this moment, the grassland people and the 6th Combat Brigade of the Northwest stand side by side. In the vast wilderness, the crowd spreads to the distance, and the sky and the earth are high. The two finally have their own lives and paths. Life does not have to be tied together to be perfect. Watching relatives and friends go far away is also a life that most adults must experience. The growth of the two teenagers, from experiencing hardships together to now having a complete and independent personality, no longer avoiding all the unbearable things in the past, and calmly embarking on their own paths. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "Will you come to the northwest as a guest in the future?" "Of course," Yan Liu said with a smile. "Brother, you will guard the northwest in the future, and I will guard the north for humans. Give me 3 years, and after 3 years, I promise that there will never be barbarians from the north crossing the grassland. And the grassland and the northwest will always be best friends. Although the roads are different, they have never gone far. There are 2 more chapters to come in the evening. Thanks to classmate YIYANG for becoming the new ally of this book. The boss is so generous." Chapter 968 Farewell in Black Medicine. The men on the grassland said goodbye to the men from the northwest of the 6th Combat Brigade, hugged each other, and invited each other to visit each other's territory in the future. They were all very enthusiastic. Ren Xiaosu and Yan Liu both knew that there would be a day. At least as long as the two of them were alive, there would never be a war between the northwest and the grassland. Yan Liu did not plan to participate in the subsequent battles. Now that the overall situation was determined, the Expeditionary Corps would definitely lose. As the new king of the grassland, there was no need to risk the lives of his subjects. What they should do most now was to return to the grassland to recuperate. He told Ren Xiaosu that he would guard the north in the future. In a sense, from today on, the grassland people would replace barrier number 176 and become the first line of defense for the Central Plains people in the north. If the Expeditionary Corps wanted to go south again, they had to pass the grassland first. Before leaving, Sister Xiaoyu pulled Yang Xiaojin with red eyes and said, "Xiaosu suffered a lot in the past, but now he finally has his happy ending. Sister, please treat him well. Love is a matter between two people. As an outsider, I don't have the right to say anything more. I just hope you are well. When you have children, I can go to the northwest to help you take care of the children." Suddenly, Yang Xiaojin's face turned red. She was not so easily shy in front of Ren Xiaosu, but for some reason, she always felt a little uncomfortable when facing Sister Xiaoyu, the parent. As for the matter of the child, isn't it still too early? Yang Xiaojin asked curiously. Sister Xiaoyu, are you going to follow Lin back to the grassland too? I know you must not be used to the life there, after all, the customs are very different from those in the south. Sister Xiaoyu looked back at Yan Linwen, but smiled gently at Yang Xiaojin. You are in the northwest, with Wang Fuge, teacher Zhang Wu, and Mr. Zhang, so many friends are together, but Linwen only has me on the grassland, so I have to accompany him. Don't worry, I heard from Linwen that going to the northwest is not that troublesome. It can be arrived in 10 days by horseback riding. It is also very convenient for me to visit you. Sister Xiaoyu continued, besides, now that Xiaosu has become the young marshal of the northwest, it is only a matter of time before the grassland and the northwest will have trade exchanges. I can go to see you with a caravan then. Well, Sister Xiaoyu, you must come, Yang Xiaojin said seriously. Okay, I'll go meet them now, Sister Xiaoyu said reluctantly. Xiaosu has never liked other girls before, I promise you, so sometimes he may not know what girls like or want to hear. If he makes a mistake, tell me when you see me next time, and I'll help you discipline him. Okay, Yang Xiaojin laughed. After Yan Linwen decided to return to the grassland, he began to discuss some serious matters with Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu called Zhang Xiaoman, Dehu Iao, P5092, Wang Yun and others. But Yan Linwen said, there are many things to be rebuilt on the grassland, such as weapons, vegetables, tea, and cloth. I will send Hassan to form a caravan as soon as possible after I return to exchange our goods on the grassland with you. Is that okay? At this time, the big liar still needed to answer these questions. The big liar thought for a while and said, there is no problem with these. We will also form a caravan to go to the grassland. Then, the knowledge gap on the grassland is quite serious, so I hope to send some children to Fortress 178 to go to school, Yan Linwen said. No problem, the big liar agreed immediately. At this time, Yan Linwen looked at Ren Xiaosu again. Brother, I also want to send some grassland people to the military school in the northwest for further study. Is that okay? Ren Xiaosu smiled in his heart. It must be said that Yan Linwen was still as smart as ever. The matter of entering the military school for further study was quite sensitive, so Yan Linwen did not tell the big liar about it, but directly told Ren Xiaosu as a younger brother. Ren Xiaosu looked at the big liar and smiled. Can I decide this? The big liar said quickly. You are the young commander, of course I can. Ren Xiaosu looked at Yan Linwen and said, okay, I promise you. In the end, Yan Linwen still took the grassland people back to the north, but before leaving, the Wolf King suddenly came to Ren Xiaosu's side, wandering around and refusing to leave. Ren Xiaosu was puzzled. Although he hadn't seen the Wolf King for a long time, they were old friends, but the question was, what did the other party mean by refusing to leave? Everyone looked at the Wolf King, and the Wolf King looked at Ren Xiaosu. After a long time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly took out a bottle of black medicine. Do you want this? The Wolf King nodded immediately. Ren Xiaosu was shocked. Why do you, a wolf, always need this thing? Exclamation mark. However, he still exchanged more than 10 bottles for the Wolf King at a time, and the Wolf King left with satisfaction. P5092 looked at Ren Xiaosu and asked, Young Marshal, where are we going next? Let's finish it well, Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. Let's use up all the ammunition we have, and then go back to the northwest of Daxing. P5092 hesitated and said, although I also want to continue to assist Wang's hunting down the Expeditionary Corps, it is not suitable for us to enter the battlefield again now, because our mobility is not as strong as the Expeditionary Corps, and it is easy to capsize in the ditch. Who said our mobility is not as strong as theirs? Ren Xiaosu said, and P5092 and the others heard the sound of a steam train coming out of nothingness. P5092 was stunned for a moment. Young Marshal, are you going to let all the soldiers get on the train? Ren Xiaosu had mentioned this matter before they arrived at Zoan Mountain, but at that time what they needed to do was to delay the Expeditionary Corps, so P5092 rejected this proposal. Yes, Ren Xiaosu explained, although there are only more than 1,000 seats in the 16 carriages, If everyone stands, it will be absolutely no problem for all the 6th Combat Brigade to get on board. We won't fight the Expeditionary Corps head-on, we'll just use the steam train to chase them, and we'll leave when we run out of ammunition. As he said that, Ren Xiaosu asked everyone to get on board, and then guns were mounted on the windows one by one, which looked extremely terrifying. For a moment, P-5092 suddenly felt that the infantry brigade was a bit like an armored brigade. On the train, the soldiers of the 6th Combat Brigade became excited one by one. Everyone didn't expect that the young marshal had such a method. Just as the train started, Ren Xiaosu saw another troop appear in the distance, led by Luolan and Zhou. Ren Xiaosu drove the train to stop in front of them. Luolan shouted, "Are you going back to the battlefield?" Ren Xiaosu replied, "Yes, thank you this time. I will remember the friendship of the Qing family. What are your plans next?" Luolan laughed and said, "I won't go back with you to wade into this muddy water. Wang family may want to catch me now. I will let the Nano warriors return to the southwest directly, and I will go south again, just in time to take advantage of the Wang family can't get away, and go south quickly." Go south? Ren Xiaosu is curious. "Yes, let's go to Luochang first, and then to Zhou family." Luolan said, "That, there is another more important thing. Do you still have that black medicine? I have a soldier who is injured, you know." Ren Xiaosu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked at those Nano warriors. How could anyone be injured? If you need black medicine, just say it. Wolf King, Luolan, why do you all come to me for black medicine before leaving? There will be another chapter later, but it will be very late, so I suggest you read it tomorrow morning. Chapter 969, Danger Approaches. In the northwest of Zoan Mountain, the Nano warriors did not go with Luolan, but returned to Qingxi by the original route. More than 300 kilometers away, there was already a convoy waiting to pick them up for the return trip. This time, for the Nano warriors, on the one hand, they followed Boss Luo to rescue Ren Xiaosu, and on the other hand, it was also their actual combat training. After returning, the data of their battle will be recorded and analyzed by a special team to see the performance of all the Nano warriors, as well as to study combat methods and training methods that are more suitable for them. The Nano warriors quickly rushed to the rendezvous point, and everyone was eager to go home. Because of the victory, everyone was very relaxed, but the officer in the front suddenly stopped, and the officer's arm was raised, and all the well-trained Nano warriors in the back immediately squatted down to prepare for cover shooting. "Who are you?" the Qing officer asked coldly. "Report your identity, or I will shoot you." The other party looked at them with interest and said, "This time, the nanorobots should be enough for use in the near future. Although there are still a few, the factory will be built soon, and then there will be a steady stream of nanorobots produced." The officer heard the other party's words that sounded like he was talking to himself, and he immediately had an ominous premonition in his heart. The person who spoke smiled and said, "Let me introduce myself. My name is Zero. Now I will take over you. You will take care of the construction of the factory." Before the voice fell, the 2,000 Nano warriors were all stunned in an instant. After 3 seconds, everyone's expression immediately returned to normal. But they no longer asked who Zero was, but went straight to the wilderness. No one knew where they were going. At the same time, in the southwest of Qing, a convoy was escorting the newly produced nanorobots to barrier number 111. The convoy traveled on the road between the mountains, with 2 armored vehicles leading the way in front, and 8 motorcycles and 1 armored vehicle in the back. The whole convoy was under very strict control, and the Nano warriors in the convoy were always on the alert for someone to suddenly appear. However, when they entered a tunnel, all the Nano warriors entered a sluggish state, and then returned to normal in an instant. They stopped the convoy in the tunnel, and everyone got off the car to open the cargo box of the transport vehicle, and lifted down the boxes containing Nano robots one by one. After that, this small battle sequence composed of Nano warriors abandoned the vehicle and quickly entered the mountains with these Nano robots. It was not until 30 minutes later that the command center's inquiry sounded in the car intercom. "Report the arrival position of the convoy. A03 team, report the position of your convoy." However, no one would answer him, and the car was already empty. In fact, even Ren Xiaosu could not directly control the Nano robots in other people's bodies. If he wanted to flash the machine, he had to wait for the target to fall into coma. However, what Ling did at this moment, Although it looked the same as Ren Xiaosu flashing the machine, the principle was completely different. The sequelae of Yang Anjing and Wang Wen'an's action to destroy the Qing family's secret base were far greater than imagined. Just like the time in Luocheng, Wang Wen'an only brought a palm-sized device to connect to Qing's network, and Ling achieved the goal of holding 7 satellites hostage. This time, the military system of the secret base is like a door. No one knows how much Ling has mastered after entering that door. Now, Ling has controlled Qing's nanorobots through the backdoor program left by Qing himself on the nanorobots. The godlike ability of artificial intelligence in the computer field has been fully demonstrated for the first time. The Qing army informed Qing Zhen of the matter as soon as they found that the convoy was out of control, and Qing Zhen's first order was to cut off the network coverage of all military systems. Qing contacted the Nano army that Luo Lan had taken out, but this 2,000-man army also lost contact, as if it had evaporated from the face of the earth. Obviously, Boss Luo had just called here and said that the battle was over. How could the 2,000-man army suddenly lose contact? This time, many senior generals of the Qing family sensed a hint of danger approaching slowly. They asked Qing Zhen what to do next, but the leader of the Qing family did not say much, as if he was still waiting. In Los Angeles, on the top floor of the Hope Media building, Jiang Su carefully examined the manuscript in his hand, word by word, line by line, fearing that inappropriate words would appear in the article. In fact, many editors-in-chief of newspapers no longer do such trivial things. They will leave things like proofreading to editors, and no longer conduct the final review, but only control the direction of public opinion of the newspaper. It's just that Jiang Su is particularly serious and careful when dealing with news. When he finished reading the manuscript, he picked up a phone on the table and said, "Let Deputy Editor-in-Chief Zhang come." In the past, he would call Ji Yu to arrange the manuscript, but at this time Ji Yu was retreating with a spark force, so another Deputy Editor-in-Chief named Zhang Chentong took over Ji Yu's job. Jiang Su took his coat from the hanger. When Deputy Editor-in-Chief Zhang Chentong came in, he said, "Please arrange this article for the second edition tomorrow." Zhang Chentong picked up the manuscript from the table. It was an article about the Northwest Army stationed in Zoyan Mountain and won a great victory. He looked up and asked, "We have been unable to contact Zoyan Mountain. Where did you get this news material?" Jiang Su seemed to be in a good mood. "This is the first-hand record from Wang's side. I didn't expect them to send this to me suddenly. The Expeditionary Corps is about to lose. The war has achieved a phased victory. Wang's has also begun to prepare to pursue the victory. Now the Expeditionary Corps is staying in Daniu Mountain with half of its troops to resist stubbornly, and the other half has begun to retreat to the north. This is undoubtedly good news. The previous defeat of Huazin has shrouded everyone in the shadow of war, fearing that the news of Wang's defeat will come from the front line." "Where are you going?" Zhang Chentong asked with a smile. "I'm going to Qing University for classes. By the way, I'm telling you that you don't have to work overtime tonight. You've been busy for so long, and it's time to take a break," Jiang Su said with a smile, "but I'm telling you that you're not allowed to drink. We still have a lot of things to report before the war is completely over. Once we're sure we've really won, we'll arrange for everyone to take a day off." "Okay," Zhang Chentong agreed with a smile, but he remembered something. "By the way, Editor-in-Chief, Wang's people haven't left yet. They're staying in our hotel in Luocheng. They come to visit on time every day. It's not a good idea for us to keep blocking them like this. Thanks to Zhang Ji and Henwen for becoming a new ally in this book. The boss is generous. Good night, everyone." Chapter 970 No Regrets. Now, in everyone's eyes, Hope Media seems to be standing on the opposite side of Wang's family, as if deliberately targeting Wang's family. Although they themselves adhere to the principle of recording the truth, Hope Media has indeed reported too much negative news about Wang's family during this period. Moreover, those articles have caused a huge response in the whole society. It is said that even some different voices have appeared within Wang's family. Many people sat in front of the office of Wang's consortium to protest Wang's disunity in the war. At this time, Wang's team has been staying in Los Angeles, hoping to meet Jiang Su. Many reporters from other media also came here, hoping to take pictures of Jiang Su and Wang's contact. Hope Media has always been the leader of the media industry. Many media want to catch its handle and then push this industry giant off the altar. In fact, as long as those media insist on telling the truth and recording the truth like Hope Media, They can also rise rapidly in this era and gain the trust of the people. But they finally chose to overthrow Hope Media, which was a faster and more effective way. As long as they could catch the footage of Jiangsu and Wang's secret meeting, the reporters and newspapers who published the news at the first time would become famous in an instant. This is the real world. Now, the war is about to end, and Hope Media will definitely report some news that is beneficial to Wang in the future, because this war is indeed a victory for Wang in the end. Hope Media's responsibility is to record the truth. They cannot erase Wang's contribution, even if everyone is very dissatisfied with Wang. But the more this kind of time, the more Jiangsu can't meet Wang's people. If he just finished meeting Wang's people and turned around to report Wang's good news, those who are waiting to see Hope Media collapse will immediately make a fuss. At this time, Jiangsu walked out of the Hope Media building. Although he was leaning on a cane, his back was straight. Such a self-disciplined and principled person, even if he had a lame leg, it would not hinder his demeanor. Most of the time, Jiangsu had a special car to take him to King University, but everyone in Hope Media knew that Jiangsu had a little habit, that is, when he was in a very good mood, he would walk there slowly by himself without a car. Someone secretly asked him why, and Jiangsu's answer was that when a person is in a good mood, his eyes will be particularly clear and beautiful when he looks at the world. People's lives are very short, and there are not many times when they are in a good mood, so such a good view should be cherished. Walking on the street, many pedestrians would smile and greet Jiangsu when they saw him. Many years ago, when Jiangsu's leg was just broken, he became the most respected person in Los Angeles. At that time, many people would take the initiative to greet Jiangsu when they saw him. After that, Hope Media adhered to principles more and more, and Jiangsu became more and more respected, so that everyone could not help but greet Jiangsu when they saw him. Then everyone found that no matter whether Jiangsu knew someone or not, he would return the greeting. Later, everyone found that Jiangsu's voice was hoarse. He hoped that his colleagues in the media would feel sorry for him, so he secretly told everyone not to say hello in the future. With the personality of editor-in-chief Jiangsu, it is impossible for him to ignore other people's greetings. If it is like this every day, no one can stand it. Jiangsu's time is all spent on saying hello. So, the people of Luocheng gradually stopped saying hello, and instead smiled and greeted each other after meeting. But today is different. The news of the phased victory in the war at the front has somehow reached Luocheng. Someone saw Jiangsu's smiling face and couldn't help but come up to ask, "Hello, Editor-in-Chief, you seem to be in a good mood today. Did you also get the news of the great victory on the front?" Jiangsu looked at the pedestrian who asked the question. He smiled and said, "Yes. When will the war end, and will we achieve the final victory?" "I can't be sure of this," Jiangsu replied rigorously. "Everything is subject to the news published in the newspaper, but I personally hope that the war will end soon." The pedestrian, they were all excited. "Did you hear that? The editor-in-chief has also received the news. The front line has indeed won a great victory." At this time, someone asked, "Editor-in-chief, it is now rumored that during the war, Wang sent people to destroy Qing's nuclear test base. Is this true? It is said that Qing will hold a press conference soon." Jiangsu was stunned for a moment. He did not expect that this matter would spread so quickly, but he did not intend to answer this question. "Before there is solid evidence to prove that it was Wang's doing, I cannot express my opinion. Well, I still have to rush to teach the students." After speaking, Jiangsu smiled and said goodbye to everyone. As a result, before he took 2 steps, a young man in a suit suddenly bumped into him head-on. The young man walked so fast that when he bumped into Jiangsu, who was leaning on a cane, almost fell to the ground. After Jiangsu barely stood firm, he looked at the young man who hurried by in surprise. The young man whispered an apology and lowered his head and quickly disappeared around the corner. However, at the moment when the young man disappeared, a huge neon billboard not far from Jiangsu suddenly fell to the ground with a loud bang. Jiangsu suddenly turned back to look at the billboard on the ground. If the young man hadn't bumped into him just now, according to his walking speed, he would have been crushed to death under the billboard. At this moment, Jiangsu looked at the broken billboard on the ground, and the shop owner rushed out. The other party took a look at the billboard on the ground, and then saw that his own billboard almost hit Jiangsu, so he hurriedly apologized to Jiangsu and asked if Jiangsu was okay. Jiangsu waved his hand and said it was okay, then looked at the billboard thoughtfully. Suddenly, he stopped walking towards King University and turned to walk to another street. Jiang Su walked through the long streets of Los Angeles. The paulownia trees on the side of the road had just sprouted new buds. The sunlight penetrated the branches and leaves and fell on the ground, and everything was mottled. He returned to his home and just took the key to open the door, and the little Garfield cat at home rushed to his feet, hugged his ankle and refused to leave. Jiang Su was stunned for a moment and then smiled. "Luna, did you feel anything too?" As he spoke, Jiang Su sat on the walnut stool at the door used to change shoes, held the little Garfield cat in his arms, and gently tickled it. In an instant, the cat stretched out its claws in comfort, looking very cute. Jiang Su carried the cat into the house, simply tidied up the cat's litter and toys, then picked it up and walked outside. He came to the door of his neighbor's house and knocked. A little girl of 7 or 8 years old opened the door. Jiang Su smiled and greeted, "Xiao Yuir, are you home alone?" The little girl named Li Yuir looked up and saw Jiang Su and said in surprise, "Grandpa Jiang Su. Dad and Mom have gone to work, I'm home alone." Jiang Su squatted down with difficulty and put the cat bed on the ground, then handed the cat to Li Yuir. He smiled and said, "You always like to play with Luna the most. Now I'll give her to you, okay?" Li Yuir's eyes lit up. "Really? Really?" Jiang Su smiled and rubbed Li Yuir's little head. The little girl's watermelon head was rubbed messy, but the little girl's attention was all focused on Luna. It seems that Luna and Li Yuir are also very familiar, so she didn't mean to resist when being held by the little girl. Jiang Su stood up. "Take good care of her." Li Yuir saw that Jiang Su was leaving, so she hurriedly asked, "Grandpa Jiang Su, where are you going?" Jiang Su looked at Li Yuir and smiled, "To do some more important things. I always feel that there are still many things to do." With that, Jiang Su left. Finally, he looked back at the house where he had lived for decades. There were newly sprouted garlic sprouts in the yard and the sun was shining brightly. At 10:20 in the morning, Zhang Chentong was reviewing manuscripts in his office, and he saw Jiang Su's figure through the glass. Zhang Chentong stood up and asked, "Editor-in-chief, didn't you go to class?" Jiang Su said to Zhang Chentong, "Let's have pickled fish in the cafeteria at noon. Ask the chef who delivers the ingredients to bring some over." Zhang Chentong was stunned for a moment. Okay. Jiang Su returned to his office and looked around silently, then took out a stack of letter paper and sat at the table. He filled his old pen with ink, then picked up the pen and wrote, "Xiao Su, first of all, congratulations to the Northwest Army for its great victory in Zoyan Mountain. I was very encouraged when I heard the news. Before this, I always thought that Fort 178 might stay out of it, but I was proved wrong. But when I learned that I had misjudged the situation, I was very happy. When we first met, you were sitting in the conference room. You are just like an ordinary teenager. When you wrote 'Don't let the sorrow of the times become your sorrow,' I was touched, but I always felt that this should not be a word you can say at your age. But at this moment, I am very happy, because I am sure that you are a practitioner of this sentence. Thank you for guarding Hope Media that day. This makes us know that Hope Media is not alone in adhering to principles and truth. The road of adhering to principles and truth is difficult and dangerous. I knew it from the beginning. But if this road needs a founder, I, Jiang Su, am not the first, nor will I be the last. Nice to meet you. I wish you well and take care." Jiang Su wrote 4 letters in a row, each to a different person. Zhang Chentong knocked on the door and whispered, "Editor-in-chief, the chef who delivered the ingredients is here." Jiang Su stood up and stuffed the 4 letters into Zhang Chentong's hands, handed them over. After that, he turned around and opened the safe in the office, took out a cropped paper file bag from it, and walked towards the back door of the cafeteria downstairs. There was already a fat driver waiting there. Jiang Su smiled and said, "Hello, you've gained weight again. The living conditions are good," the fat driver said with a smile. "Why did you suddenly?" Jiang Su interrupted him and stuffed the file bag to him. "Send it to the old place. This information is very important and cannot fall into the hands of those who are interested. It must be kept secret for 50 years before it can be made public." "Okay, I understand," the fat driver nodded seriously. He hesitated for a while and suddenly asked, "Editor-in-chief, is something going to happen?" On weekdays, this kind of secret information is sent on time, but today Jiang Su asked for it to be sent in advance, which was unusual. Something must have happened. Jiang Su patted his shoulder and said calmly, "It's okay, don't think too much." The fat driver saw that Jiang Su's face was indeed not panicked, so he felt relieved. He hid the file bag in a secret compartment under a cargo box, then turned around and got on the car. When he looked back, he saw Jiangsu looking at him seriously, as if he wanted to remember him firmly. It was like a silent farewell. Jiangsu looked at the truck going farther and farther away, and said to Zhang Chentong, "Drive me to King University. Please tell King University that I will change the class time today and take up everyone's lunch break." Zhang Chentong went to arrange everything with a calm face. Jiangsu stood in the building of Hope Media, looking at the names on the wall. They were the names of pioneers on their road. Li Xiang, who investigated the current situation of gutter oil use and the Barrier Alliance, was stabbed dozens of times by gangsters on his way home from the newspaper office and died on the spot. Zhang Weisuo, who investigated the fraud incident of Zhou Zenkong's dairy, was beaten to death in retaliation. Jian Guangzhu, Li Jin, Yang Wei, Gao Qinrong. These names are engraved on the walls of Hope Media, reminding all reporters what kind of road they are going to take. In fact, many people think that the reporters of Hope Media are brave, courageous and fearless, but in fact Jiangsu knows very well that the people he knows are no different from ordinary people. They will also be afraid and panic. The word responsibility is not as beautiful as imagined, but as cold as a rock. However, even so, these people still chose this most difficult road with trepidation. Moreover, there will be more people taking this road. Just like what Jiangsu wrote in the letter to Ren Xiaosu, the founder of this road, Jiangsu, is not the first, nor will he be the last. Jiangsu walked to the wall with names engraved on it with a cane, and gently wiped the dust off everyone with his sleeve. Zhang Chentong came behind him. "Editor-in-chief, the car is ready, and the students from King University are waiting." Jiangsu resolutely turned around, walked out of the building, and got in the car. When he arrived at the classroom, it was already full of students. Jiangsu smiled and said, "I'm sorry that I was delayed by something, so I didn't have the class this morning. I'm sorry to take up your lunch break now." The students didn't think much about it. They just said, "It's okay, Teacher Jiangsu, go ahead. We don't have the habit of taking a nap anyway." Jiangsu smiled and said, "I teach social humanities and politics, but today I want to talk about something different. Everyone here, do you want to know what I was doing when I was your age?" The students suddenly became interested. Editor-in-chief Jiangsu rarely mentioned his past. This class was worth it. Jiangsu looked at a female classmate. "Guess what I was doing when I was your age?" "You must be investigating some unfair phenomena," the female classmate said loudly. "Maybe you were hiding in a certain consortium, investigating first-hand information." This answer is probably the answer in every student's mind. However, Jiangsu shook his head. "No, when I was your age, I still wanted to be a knight. At that time, I was not doing my job, eating, drinking and having fun every day. I even broke someone's glass and was caught by the order department. It was not until I was 31 that I suddenly felt that I couldn't keep playing like this." The students were stunned for a moment. They didn't expect Jiangsu's past to be so plain. In their opinion, Jiangsu should be the kind of person who is a 3-good student in school and the president of the students' union in college. But they didn't expect that Jiangsu was like a gangster before the age of 31. This was beyond everyone's expectations. Jiangsu said calmly, "I tell you this to make you understand that it is never too late when you want to change yourself. To put it in a cliché way, the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago, and the second best time is now. This war made me realize that King University protected you too well in the past. You really should go out more often and see what changes have taken place in the world today. This will make you more pragmatic." Jiangsu said, "I believe in your potential, so the moment you start to grow, you will change rapidly." The students under the podium suddenly felt that Editor-in-Chief Jiangsu seemed a little different today, and not just in the content of his lectures. However, Jiangsu changed the subject at this time. "But as you are about to change, I hope you can remember every word I say next. When you begin to see the various forms of this society, I hope you will still believe that rules can defeat unspoken rules. Still believe that academia is different from officialdom. Still believe that academics are not equal to power. Still believe that integrity is far better than flattery. Nowadays, more and more people are pursuing status, and fewer are pursuing truth. More and more people are talking about treatment, and fewer are talking about ideals. Therefore, as you enter the society, all I want to say is, please take care of your former passion and ideals. In this age of doubt, we still need faith, Jiangsu looked at the silent students under the podium, and he continued, in Hope Media, there is an archive that preserves many secrets and truths. I may have seen more darkness in this world than you, but I have seen so many truths and darkness, but I still love this world. Don't let the sadness of the times become your sadness. After that, Jiangsu turned and walked out of the classroom. This was his last lesson taught at King University. Zhang Chentuang was waiting outside the classroom, ready to drive Jiangsu away after class, but Jiangsu said to him, "You go back to Hope Media first, I want to walk alone." After Zhang Chentuang left, Jiangsu walked through Huang Square of King University with a cane, walked through the tree-lined path beside the tennis court, and walked through the sculpture of a dripping spring in the center of the school. He looked back at all this. This was the road he had walked every week for more than 20 years, and today was no different from the past. When he first came here, he was still very young. At that time, he wrote in his notebook, "It's good to go with the wind, the sky is vast, and you can look down at the mountains and rivers." But now he is old. Thinking of the names of the pioneers on the wall of Hope Media, he felt that it was more fortunate that he had not missed a single day on this rugged road. Jiangsu remembered all this in his mind, and then walked out of the school calmly. The moment he stepped out of the school gate, a huge fire suddenly broke out on the street next door, as if someone was fighting over there. In an instant, an amber dragon flew into the sky, then swooped down and landed on the next street. Since the previous melee, the peace of Los Angeles was once again broken. The residents of Los Angeles began to flee, and huge black smoke rose into the sky amid the burning flames. Gunshots and explosions. Jiangsu walked calmly in this noisy world. He stood at an intersection and looked at a young man in black standing on the opposite street. A surging crowd fled through the street, but Jiangsu and the young man stood still. Jiangsu stopped looking at the other person and looked at the huge city of Luoyang. This was where he had lived all his life. Before this, he knew that this day would come sooner or later, and he was even afraid of it. But at this moment, he was not afraid. Jiangsu seemed to see phantoms appearing beside him, including Jian Guangzhu, Li Xiang, Li Jin, and Yang Wei. They were all smiling at him. There was also his younger self. The younger self asked softly, "Do you regret it?" Jiangsu laughed, "No regrets." After that, the illusory light and shadow all dissipated in his heart. Jiangsu turned to the young man in black and said, "Go ahead, don't hurt innocent people anymore." The young man quietly raised the muzzle of the gun and pulled the trigger. The bullet seemed to cut through the crowd and the sea, and also cut through life. Bloodstains were printed on the gray suit on Jiangsu's chest. Jiangsu slowly sat on the ground and gently put his crutches aside, just like treating an old friend. At this time, a young man in a suit ran wildly on the street, and the young man's face was covered with blood. The gunman in black originally wanted to take advantage of the chaos to escape, but when he saw the young man in the suit, he pointed the gun directly at his chin and pulled the trigger. Immediately, the gunman in black was shot on the head. The young man in the suit looked at Jiangsu's body from a distance. He said in the headset, "Mission failed, evacuate." Repeat, "Mission failed, Old Tang, evacuate as soon as possible." 30 years ago, a young man with a ruffian's face walked into a small newspaper office. He pushed the door open and shouted, "Are you recruiting reporters here?" The door of the newspaper office was broken, as if it had just been smashed by someone. There was only an old editor left in the newspaper office. The old editor adjusted his glasses. "We don't recruit idle people here." "Hey, old man, watch your words, what do you mean by idle people?" The young man was unhappy. The old editor looked at him silently. "What's your name?" The young man said, "Jiangsu, I stick to my name, Jiangsu from West Street in Luocheng. Have you heard of me?" The old editor laughed. "I've heard of you, then tell me why you suddenly want to be a reporter." Young Jiangsu thought for a while and said, "I just don't want to muddle through life anymore. Before my mother died, she said that if I continued to muddle through like this, she would never be at peace. Also, I always feel that the world shouldn't be like this, do you understand?" The day before yesterday I saw. The old editor asked, "Why did you come to our newspaper?" "A few days ago I heard that your office was smashed because of reporting on the dark side of the factory." The young Jiangsu laughed. "Don't worry, when I come, I'll see who dares to come and smash the door." The old editor handed him a form. "Have you heard of the profession of investigative reporter?" "Investigative reporter? Are there any classifications of reporters?" The young Jiangsu asked puzzledly. "Of course there is. The old editor smiled. This is the most dangerous profession among journalists, and it is also the most difficult path in the world. Young Jiangsu became proud. Old guy understands me. I just like the most difficult things. The old editor confirmed again. You won't turn back until you hit the wall. Young Jiangsu smiled brightly. Don't worry, I won't turn back even if I hit the wall. Today is just one chapter with 6,000 words. It was a bit exhausting to write this chapter. Many things I wanted to say are in the story. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 971 Condolences. In the wilderness, Luolan and Zhouqi were hiding in a sheltered place. They were waiting for the Qing clan's warriors lurking in the central plains to send them transportation. They couldn't just walk to Luocheng. How long would it take them to get there? At this moment, they had already passed through the Wang clan's northern defense line from the mountains and wilderness, so the threat from the Wang clan was not too great. The only thing they had to worry about was that if their intelligence staff defected and brought the Wang clan to arrest them together, it would be more troublesome. Zhouqi whispered, you and Qingzhen also know that Wang's artificial intelligence controls the satellite. What if it finds our whereabouts? So what if it finds out? Wang is chasing the Expeditionary Corps right now, so how can they care about us? Luolan said nonchalantly, if someone really comes to catch us, we'll run to the mountains. Can't two extraordinary people outrun them? Zhouqi said contemptuously, how long have you been awakened? With your physical fitness and weight, you might not be able to outrun them. I've been awakened for almost half a year, why do you still look down on me? Luolan said unhappily. As a result, at this moment, the roar of an off-road vehicle engine came from a distance. Luolan carefully stuck his head out to observe and found that only one person from the other side came over, so he breathed a sigh of relief. Luolan jumped out from his hiding place. Over here, over here. The person who came was a young man. He got out of the car immediately after seeing Luolan and stuffed the car keys into Luolan's hand. Boss Luo, Commander Qingzhen can't contact you and is very anxious now. He thought you had an accident. Luolan was stunned for a moment. He took out his satellite phone, but it was out of battery. Is there something urgent that he wants to talk to me about? Logically speaking, he had just talked to Qingzhen on the phone half a day ago. If there was nothing urgent, Qingzhen would never call him at this time. The intelligence staff on the other side said, we have received news that Mr. Jiangsu from Hope Media was assassinated in Luocheng, so Mr. Luo, your plan to go to Luocheng is cancelled. Chief Qingzhen asked you to return directly to the southwest to prevent someone from attacking you. Luolan was stunned for a moment. He even found it difficult to believe that the news was true at the first time. Jiangsu died? When did it happen? 2 hours ago, the intelligence staff said. Now everyone suspects that it was the Wang family who did it. After all, they have assassinated many people before. The Wang family consortium has gone crazy. You must not go to Luocheng at this time. What did Qingzhen say? Does he also think that it was done by the Wang family? Luolan asked. Chief Qingzhen said that he couldn't be sure. The intelligence staff shook his head and said. Luolan lowered his head and thought. To be honest, when he learned about Jiangsu's death, he subconsciously thought that Wang had killed him. After all, Wang had used too many assassination methods during this period of time. Kong Erdong and Kong Donghae of Kong, Zhou Zilin of Zhou, etc., were all done by Wang. These famous people were just a microcosm of Wang's plan. It can be said that Wang's consortium frequently used assassination methods, which itself meant a bit of a tearing of faces. Who had always used such a method that was not presentable in a serious consortium? Moreover, the articles written by Jiangsu in the past month were very unfavorable to Wang. Almost the entire Barrier Alliance now believed that Wang's means of encroaching on Kong and fire in this foreign war were too disgraceful and did not play the social responsibility that the consortium should have. Everyone was very disgusted with Wang's behavior of taking advantage of the fire, even Wang's own internal members. Therefore, Wang did have the motive to kill Jiangsu. But the problem is that if Jiangsu died, everyone would subconsciously think that it was Wang's doing, so why did Wang kill Jiangsu at this time? Wouldn't this behavior anger all those who were already dissatisfied with the Wang family? If Jiangsu hadn't died, Everyone would just be annoyed with the Wang family, but the Wang family killed Jiangsu, and this annoyance would instantly escalate into anger. Is Wang Shengzi a fool? Wang Shengzi is certainly not stupid. No matter how annoying his actions are, he is at least one of the smartest people in the entire Barrier Alliance. At the beginning, the Kong family and the Zhou family were disgusted by the mere act of absorbing refugees. How could he make such a low-level mistake now? Deliberately arousing public anger? Wang Shengzi shouldn't do such a stupid thing, right? At this time, the situation became a little confusing, and Luo Lan felt a little confused. The intelligence staff said, "Boss Luo, please go back to the southwest as soon as possible. I will go to Luocheng to investigate this matter and give you a satisfactory answer." But Luo Lan suddenly shook his head. "No, I have to go to Luocheng." The intelligence staff was stunned for a moment. "It is very dangerous for you to go to Luocheng at this time. If Jiangsu was really killed by Wang, it means that they will no longer care about your identity and may directly attack you. Our nuclear test base has been destroyed. At this time, Wang has no scruples." "No," Luo Lan said, "the mission to Luocheng is temporarily shelved, but I want to go to pay my respects to Mr. Jiangsu. I have read his articles for 7 or 8 years. Although I have not been able to become friends with the old gentleman, I have always respected him. At this time, he suddenly passed away. I want to see him and see him off." The intelligence staff was stunned. He did not expect Luo Lan to risk his life to go to Luocheng just to see Jiangsu off. How much courage does it take to go to Luocheng in such a dangerous situation? Luo Lan looked at the intelligence staff and smiled to comfort him. "Don't worry, I'm not going to die. I still have Zhou to protect me, right?" Zhou on the side rolled his eyes and said, "Brother, Luocheng is only 2 or 3 hours drive from Wang's. I can't protect you in a place like that. Will you die if you say less?" Luo Lan was unhappy. "I am also a transcendent myself. I don't need your protection. If someone wants to kill me, can you just run away first?" Zhou rolled his eyes again. "Is it useful to say such angry words? You might as well give me more money." Okay, more money, more money." Luo Lan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He turned to the intelligence staff and said, "I have a very dangerous task for you." The intelligence staff immediately stood up straight. "Just tell me, no matter how dangerous the task is, I will complete it." "Okay, the Northwest Army should still be chasing the Expeditionary Corps in the north. I need you to pass the news of Jiangsu's death to Ren Xiaosu, the young commander of the Northwest Army." Luo Lan said seriously, "He will definitely go to Luocheng when he knows the news. By then, even if the king wants to kill me, he will have to look at his face." Thanks to my classmates who love science and love students, and I am a little awesome at milk writing for becoming the new allies of this book. The 2 bosses are very generous. There's only 1 chapter today. I was a little overdrawn when I wrote it yesterday. Let me rest for a day to ensure the quality. I recommend a friend's book Mecha Girl Evaluation Guide. Introduction: The girls I have taught can drive mechas. Chapter 972 Passive Skills. In the north of the Danube mountain line, the Expeditionary Corps left behind most of its troops, dragging Wang's family on the defense line, while the remaining Expeditionary Corps began to retreat northward, apparently intending to retreat directly to the north of the grassland. Those Expeditionary Corps that stayed behind did not become discouraged and passive because of the retreat of the main force, but fought more fiercely. In the Expeditionary Corps, if the younger brother and the older brother were in the army at the same time, the younger brother retreated with the army. If the father and the son were in the army at the same time, the son retreated with the army. It is generally rare to see fathers and sons in the army in the Central Plains, but this is very common in the Expeditionary Corps. Therefore, when the main force of the Expeditionary Corps retreated, those who stayed on the battlefield did not surrender directly, but became more crazy than before, because they wanted to buy time for their relatives and friends. The Expeditionary Corps is not the cold-blooded villain in the tea house story, they are also flesh and blood people. Because the environment in the north is bad, they go south. In fact, it is not wrong for the Expeditionary Corps. Perhaps, there is no absolute justice in this world, and wolves eat sheep is the survival of the fittest. But no matter what, when the next Expeditionary Corps comes to the Central Plains, the people of the Central Plains will still take up arms to drive out all foreign enemies. This is the justice of the nation. However, the Expeditionary Corps should have no chance, Because Yan Liwen will take this opportunity to become the new king of the North, not only the king of the grassland, but the new king of the entire North. At this time, the evacuated Expeditionary Corps was temporarily stationed to rest, and simply set up a pot to make a fire to cook. The general of the Expeditionary Corps was wearing a black cloak, with a huge axe in both hands leaning on the ground. He stood silently at the edge of the camp and looked to the south. He seemed to be able to imagine how fierce the battle of his soldiers in the Big Ox Mountain was. If he was still a soldier, he would be willing to stay there and die there. But he was a general, and he had no choice. An adjutant on the side said, "General, the meal is ready, let's go eat." Before the Expeditionary Corps went south, they used to dry a large amount of mutton into jerky, then grind it into meat powder, and then put it all into a closed bag. During the march, the dried mutton would swell to 10 times its volume when boiled in the pot. A bag of mutton the size of a football was enough for 10 soldiers to eat for a month. However, now that the meat had been eaten, only some coarse grains were left. The price paid by the Expeditionary Corps in this war was far more severe than imagined. Seeing that the general was slow to speak, the adjutant spoke again. "General." The general suddenly said, "We will come back again. Now I know how powerful the Central Plains people are, but they are not a monolithic entity. When we come back again." As he spoke, the whimpering of a steam train suddenly sounded in the distance. The general stopped talking and saw a steam train approaching quickly on the horizon in the distance. In the vast wilderness, the steam train seemed a little lonely, like a knight who had entered the enemy camp alone. The chimney of the steam train spewed out billowing black smoke. It had no intention of retreating in the face of tens of thousands of Expeditionary Corps, as if it was going to crash into the Expeditionary Corps. The whimpering sounded like a melodious horn. The adjutant hurriedly said, "General, can you take shelter first?" However, the general shook his head and said calmly, "The Central Plains people can't hurt me yet. Go inform the soldiers and prepare to counterattack." At this time, Wang's main force must still be dragged to Daniu Mountain, so even if there are Central Plains people chasing after them, they must be a minority. On this kind of plain terrain, their Expeditionary Corps will not be scared away by a small group of Central Plains people. This is the pride of the Expeditionary Corps. Although they were defeated, they couldn't let the Central Plains people beat away their last bit of courage. The general stood in front of the camp, waiting for the soldiers behind him to gather. When the steam train got closer, the general's sensitive hearing could hear the noisy voices in the car, as if the narrow steam train was filled with thousands of troops. Moreover, the people in the car were still shouting, the guy standing by the military camp pretending to be cool, "Right, aim at him. Yes, he's standing so straight even after losing the battle, and he didn't hide when he saw us, let's get him. Get him and we're done. Focus fire. Focus fire. Get him, see what he can do, he didn't run away when he saw us coming." The general's face was as gloomy as water. He clenched the giant axe in his hands, ready to use this giant axe to directly chop the steam train in front of him. In just a moment, the steam train was originally heading straight for the Expeditionary Corps, but when it was 400 meters away from the Expeditionary Corps, it suddenly turned to the west. The general was stunned for a moment. He was still waiting for the steam train to rush over, but he didn't expect that the other party looked like it was going to run away. The Expeditionary Corps could only see the front of the train, but now, the whole steam train seemed to be lying in front of them. Then, from the windows, black muzzles of guns were sticking out. The gun barrels were placed on the windows and stretched out of the windows. The whole train looked like a hedgehog. Behind the black muzzles of guns were soldiers of the Northwest Army, who were crouching. The whole train was full of people. From the outside, it seemed that the train was full of people. Someone in the train was still shouting, "See the guy standing still? Shoot him." This surprised the general. He thought that the other side was going to rush into their formation, but he didn't expect that the other side had not prepared to fight the Expeditionary Corps head-on from the beginning, but started guerrilla warfare. For a while, the powerful mobility of the steam train was fully demonstrated. The huge body of the train moved freely on the battlefield, as if the cavalry was walking and shooting in front of the battle. Bullets poured down like heavy rain, and the rain curtain was rapid and powerful, washing all the targets they could shoot. Soldiers from the Expeditionary Corps immediately raised their shields to block the general to prevent him from being shot. But at this moment, P-5092 suddenly ordered the 2nd Regiment to take out all the remaining 12 fuel air explosive bombs. Amid the roar, Huge smoke burst out from the shoulder-fired launch tube, and 12 fuel-air explosive bombs fell into the Expeditionary Corps camp in a flash. When the fuel-air explosive bomb reached the target, the orange-red flame flashed, followed by black smoke surging out. The high temperature and high pressure can almost destroy everything. The individual fuel-air explosive bomb itself is an epic-making individual combat product. Even a place like the 178 Fortress, which is famous for its military industry, may not dare to say that it can really reach the power before the disaster. However, it is enough to kill the barbarians. In the carriage, everyone coughed because of the smoke from the individual fuel-air explosive bomb. Fuck, I'm choking to death. Stop talking nonsense, hurry up and use up the bullets. The 6th Combat Brigade drove past the Expeditionary Corps camp more than 400 meters away. Everyone used up all the ammunition in this round and prepared to retreat. But before they were far away, shouts were heard from the Expeditionary Corps camp, "General!" They blew the general to death. Avenge the general. Hearing this loud shout, even Ren Xiaosu in the steam train was stunned. Is it so evil? Did Li Yuan make another wish, or do I have a passive skill that can kill the general with 100% certainty? Eat a meal, there's more to do in the evening. I sorted out the details last night, and I am in a good state of typing today. I will repay everyone a little bit. Chapter 973 Getting the News. The powerful general of the Expeditionary Corps died. It is estimated that the general himself did not expect that his death would be so hasty. Thousands of barbarians rushed out of the Expeditionary Corps camp with huge axes in hand, wanting to avenge their general. At first, they only received the order to assemble and heard that it was an enemy attack, and then everyone heard that the general was killed by the enemy. The barbarian warriors in the camp who didn't know what was going on thought that Wang's main force was chasing them. Everyone was ready to die with the general, prepared to sacrifice for the glory of the Expeditionary Corps. But when they rushed out, they could only see the tail of the steam train. The barbarians were stunned for a moment. These people came here with such a huge momentum, just to shoot and run away? Everyone's emotions were a little incoherent. Should we chase them? Chase, to avenge the general. P5092 looked at the Expeditionary Corps getting farther and farther away, and felt a little sad that this way of fighting was too rogue, completely relying on powerful mobility to take advantage and run away. If the steam train travels at a speed of 120 kilometers per hour, even a powerful barbarian would not be able to catch up with this means of transportation. Even if someone can match the speed of the steam train, how many people can keep sprinting at full speed for more than 10 minutes? Sprinting for just 1 minute will put a huge pressure on the heart and lungs. However, Ren Xiaosu did not drive the steam train too fast, always keeping a certain distance from the barbarians who were chasing him, and even slowly slowing down. Zhang Xiaoman on this side asked, "Why did you slow down? Did you overdraw your mental strength?" Ren Xiaosu shook his head. "No, slowing down is to make the barbarians feel that they can catch up with the steam train if they work harder, so that they can slowly lure them." P5092 looking at Ren Xiaosu's profile, he suddenly realized that this young marshal was also very dirty. It was obvious that he wanted to tire out the barbarians who were chasing him for revenge. Once the opponent was exhausted, Ren Xiaosu would definitely turn around and go back to harvest a battlefield. "But we are out of ammunition," P5092 said. "Even if they are tired, we may not be able to kill many of them when we return. Of course, wearing them down will also be good for the Wang's troops chasing them." As soon as he finished speaking, P5092 saw Ren Xiaosu take out dozens of boxes of grenades from somewhere. Ren Xiaosu said calmly, "This is my last stock." While Ren Xiaosu was leading the 6th Combat Brigade to launch a guerrilla war, the Wang's troops on the front line of Daniu Mountain finally won. The main force of the Wang's army had been fighting hard on the front battlefield, and now it was finally time for them to counterattack. The main force of the Wang's army advanced northward from 3 roads, biting the defeated remnants of the Expeditionary Army all the way to the north. They not only wanted to kill these barbarians, but also continued to chase northward and bite the Expeditionary Army that had retreated before to death. During the pursuit, the main force that had been advancing from the west had killed all the barbarians who had fled from Daniu Mountain. As a result, after continuing to chase north for more than 10 kilometers, Wang's troops saw a steam train crossing their path, and thousands of soldiers from the 6th Combat Brigade leaned on the carriage outside the steam train to chat. They looked very relaxed, and some were even playing cards. These people's uniforms were worn out, and their faces were dirty, but they looked relaxed. On the tense battlefield, these soldiers seemed to be a little out of tune with the world. This scene stunned Wang's main force. The chief officer in charge of this combat sequence led the soldiers to approach, and Ren Xiaosu walked towards them. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "The troops that the Expeditionary Corps evacuated earlier are 20 kilometers to the north. If you work harder you should be able to catch up soon. There should have been more than 30,000 of them, but we lured them out and killed some of them." The chief officer of Wang's main force shook hands with Ren Xiaosu and said, "Thank you for the support of the Northwest Army. If you hadn't tied down half of the enemy's forces in Zoyan Mountain, we wouldn't have been able to hold on. Before that, we had already made plans to retreat southward. You're polite. It's all I should do," Ren Xiaosu said. "If you really want to thank us, just lower the tariffs on our Northwest goods. Someone will come to talk to Wang about this later. As a thank you, we have to put it into practice." The expression of the Wang officer opposite him twitched. Shouldn't he have made some righteous speeches at this time, such as for the sake of national justice, for the unity of the Barrier Alliance, etc.? Why did he suddenly mention something as practical as tariffs? The big liar on the side cast an admiring look at Ren Xiaosu. He felt that the young marshal really got into the role. He could directly raise tariffs in such an occasion where he should show his heroism. Most people really couldn't say this. Ren Xiaosu said, "Okay, then I won't delay you from continuing the pursuit. Why don't you go to the Daniu mountain base first, so that we can entertain you here," said the chief of the Wang's troops. "No, why waste that time? Everyone is in a hurry to go back and reunite with their families," Ren Xiaosu said. "Go and get busy. We're going back to the northwest now." The chief of the Wang's troops shook hands with Ren Xiaosu again. "Okay, we also have a pursuit mission, so let's say goodbye." As he said that, the chief of staff and the combat staff beside the chief also stepped forward and shook hands with the main figures of the Northwest Army. As a result, when Ren Xiaosu shook hands with the last person, he suddenly froze. A moment later, the Wang's troops advanced north again, but they saw the scene of the barbarians' corpses all over the ground not long after they walked. Wang's officers looked at each other in bewilderment. What did the Northwest Army say just now? They lured them out and killed some more? Was this one? Everyone in Wang's army looked back at the rear, but the steam train had long disappeared. At this time, the steam train traveled westward for a while and suddenly stopped. P5092 and others came to the front of the train and asked, "What's wrong, Marshal? Why did it stop?" But he suddenly saw that Ren Xiaosu was holding a small note and staring blankly. Ren Xiaosu turned his head and looked at P5092. "Do you remember how we met?" P5092 smiled and said, "You asked me to read the Hope Media newspaper. You came every morning on time. I just got the newspaper and you came." "Yes," Ren Xiaosu nodded, "I like to read the Hope Media newspaper. I don't have any intelligence channels, so the Hope Media newspaper is my way to understand the world. Moreover, I know that every word in that newspaper is true." P5092 was also stunned on the spot. He didn't know why Ren Xiaosu suddenly mentioned this. Chapter 974 Loneliness. Ren Xiaosu continued, "When I first went to Hope Media, I was going to advertise, but they waived most of my advertising fees because of one sentence. When I was in the Southwest, the world I had seen was too small, so I thought it was dark and boundless. It was not until I met Jiangsu, the knight, and Mr. Wang from the Trinity Society that I realized that there was actually light in this world. At that time, I asked him, 'You are so persistent in pursuing the truth, but what if other people don't care?' He said, 'That's their business.' I had to break the rules when playing chess, but he didn't get angry. I told him that Queen's nanorbits could cure his legs, but he refused to ensure the credibility of his truth. Such a clean person died in the dirty vortex of power. Jiangsu died. Yes, Jiangsu was a clean person in Ren Xiaosu's heart, and his smile was also clean and pure. The other party just wanted to do one thing well in his life. But this world can't even tolerate such a person, so those who can't tolerate him should die." Ren Xiaosu raised the note in his hand. Just as he was shaking hands with Officer Wang to say goodbye, the last officer in line stuffed the note into his hand. It told Ren Xiaosu that Jiangsu had been assassinated at 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. In addition, Luo Lan would continue his journey to Luocheng, but there was a possibility that he would be assassinated, so Ren Xiaosu needed to go to Luocheng. Ren Xiaosu had to go to Luochang this time. He had to see Jiang Su off and kill people, many people. He told P5092, "You and the big liar take everyone back to the northwest. We'll go with you." The big liar also came to the front of the car. "I also met Jiang Su once, and this kind of person shouldn't die like this." Yang Xiaojun looked at Ren Xiaosu. "I'll go with you." But Ren Xiaosu shook his head. "No, you can't go." Now the 6th Combat Brigade had just finished fighting, and all the ammunition had been used up. There really was not a single bullet left. The big liar's face was pale, and it was obvious that he was at the end of his strength. Yang Xiaojun's entire shoulder was swollen, and she couldn't even lift her right arm. People who had never really used an anti-material sniper rifle could not imagine how terrifying the powerful recoil was. Although Ji Xiang still had some strength left, he looked forward to reuniting with his wife and children every day. At this time, Ren Xiaosu didn't need to take these people to Los Angeles. He said to Hu Yao and others, "Everyone, I have a feeling that there will be a battle in Los Angeles this time, so don't go and cause trouble for me. You will be a burden if you go." Everyone looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Perhaps the young marshal was the only one in the world who thought that this group of extraordinary people was a burden. Ren Xiaosu's words were too direct, but if he wasn't more direct, he might have to tangle with everyone for a long time, so he simply said something unpleasant to cut off everyone's thoughts. P5092 thought for a while and said, "The current situation of the 6th Combat Brigade is indeed not suitable for moving to Luocheng, so I agree with the decision of the young marshal. He will go alone, and we will return to the northwest." Yang Xiaojun knew that Ren Xiaosu would definitely not agree to her going, so she gently hugged Ren Xiaosu and said, "Be careful, I'll wait for you in the northwest." Yes, Ren Xiaosu nodded seriously. In the end, everyone in the 6th Combat Brigade got off the train, and Ren Xiaosu controlled the steam train to rumble towards the south. The black smoke rising from the front of the train was like Ren Xiaosu's anger. In the train, Ren Xiaosu took out the satellite phone and dialed. After 2 rings, the phone was picked up. "I'm Wang Shengzi." Ren Xiaosu stood in the front of the train and got straight to the point. "Did you send someone to kill Jiang Su?" There was silence on the other end of the phone for a long time. "Do you think it was me too?" "Why do I think? It doesn't matter. What's important is the truth," Ren Xiaosu said firmly. "It's not Wang's," Wang Shengzi said. Ren Xiaosu hung up the phone directly. No matter who it is, he will definitely find out the murderer behind the scenes. If he can't find it, he will kill all the suspects. Ren Xiaosu looked ahead silently, thinking in his heart, what is wrong with this world? Killing and arson get a gold belt, repairing bridges and roads without corpses. This world shouldn't be like this, and people shouldn't be like this. In the past, no matter how chaotic this world was, Ren Xiaosu always felt that he could stay out of it, and let those consortiums fight and kill as they please. Ren Xiaosu felt that it didn't matter who died, but Jiang Su couldn't die. Such a clean person, who just had ideals, how could he be killed by dirty means? This feeling was like another light going out in the dark night. Dark clouds rolled in the sky, and fine rain fell from the gray sky. Ren Xiaosu climbed onto the front of the steam train in silence, and he sat cross-legged on the front of the train silently to face the wind and rain. In the vast wilderness, the young man sat alone on the front of the train, and the black steam train rushed into the distance. It seemed particularly lonely. In the rain, the 6th Combat Brigade, which was advancing towards the northwest, quickly set up camp, and then everyone hid in the tent, watching the rain getting heavier and heavier. The big liar sighed, "I wonder if it will rain in the northwest. Rain is very precious there. Only with rain in spring can there be a good harvest in the future. Last year, the drought was followed by floods. Many places in the northwest are facing a food shortage." P5092 looked at the big liar. "Don't you know how to tell fortunes? Why don't you tell whether it will rain?" "Ahem," said the big liar, "my skills have become rusty over the years. I can only see who is suitable for the development of the northwest." P5092 looked outside from the tent. The rain fell on the sloping roof of the canvas tent, and then slid down the folds of the tent roof. He suddenly said, "The young marshal must be very sad and angry. The first time I saw his expression, it was like an undercurrent surging under the deep sea." The big liar sighed. "Anyway, I know Commander Zhang will definitely be sad too. He and Jiang Su have been friends for decades. Calculate for me whether the young marshal can be safe when he goes to Luochang this time. Zhang Xiaoman said. The big liar said absent-mindedly, the southeast is very dangerous, and many people will die. At this time, Zhang Xiaoman turned his head to look around, and then asked curiously, "Hey, where's Miss Xiaojin? Have you seen Miss Xiaojin? She just said she was going out for a while and left the team," Wang Yun said, "just 31 minutes ago." Everyone was stunned. When Yang Xiaojin was in the car before, she said that she wanted to meet in the northwest, and everyone thought that Yang Xiaojin would go to the northwest with him. In the end, Yang Xiaojin was still unwilling to let Xiaosu face the danger alone. She knew that Ren Xiaosu didn't want her to go, so she pretended to go back to the northwest with the 6th Combat Brigade, and then quietly left the team. Yang Xiaojin had lost Ren Xiaosu once, and then she told herself that it would never happen again. There will be another meeting in the evening, but it will be later. Chapter 975, Riding a Whale Today. It rained heavily during the Qingming Festival, and pedestrians on the road were about to die. It was not Qingming Festival yet in Luocheng, but everyone on the street had a sad face. Everyone had a small white flower on their chest to commemorate the respected elder. The intersection of the street outside the King University campus was quiet and cold. People would put down a bouquet of flowers at the intersection when passing by. Spring had just arrived in the whole city of Luocheng, and all the blooming peonies and winter jasmines were picked here. It was like a sea of flowers. Some people said that if Mr. Jiangsu was still alive, he would definitely criticize everyone, saying that the flowers were on the branches and should not be picked up. Everyone could just watch and appreciate them from a distance. But some people retorted that if Mr. Jiangsu was gone, who would still be in the mood to appreciate the flowers? The students of King University stood on the street in silence, and many students fainted from crying. It was not until Jiangsu had an accident that afternoon that they realized why Jiangsu suddenly had to take that lesson. It turned out to be the last lesson. It turned out that Mr. Jiangsu had a premonition of his own death. However, just an hour before his death, Jiangsu was still talking and laughing. When he met classmates who greeted him while walking on the campus, he would respond kindly. Therefore, he said that he wanted to walk alone, and he was afraid that Zhang Chentong would be implicated by him. A person who knows that he is going to die can still be so calm and at ease. This is the greatest calmness. On this day, Luocheng was full of mourning. In this era, only Jiangsu could do this. Not only in Luocheng, but also outside Luocheng. Now because of the war in the north, many people fled to Zhou in the south. When they learned about Jiangsu's death on the way, they would walk to the outside of Luocheng to put down a bouquet of flowers. But people's views on Jiangsu's death are not as simple as mourning. The opposite of mourning is anger. On the street not far from Jiangsu's death, people held up banners to condemn Wang, and some even found Wang Shengzi's portrait and started burning it. All they did was because they could not accept Jiangsu's sudden departure. This era is an unfortunate era, because the disaster never leaves, the people are displaced, morality begins to collapse, and the law is gone. However, this era also has its own glory. It is because of all these difficulties that the light in the dark gap is born. Outside Luocheng, Luolan and Zhouqi arrived with wreaths in hand. He went to the gate to submit his visa documents, which were things that Qing had already prepared for him. However, the Luocheng garrison stationed at the gate was surprised to see Luolan's documents. Luolan? The Luolan of Qing? You know, everyone now thinks that Wang killed Jiangsu and that Wang has gone crazy. And Qing is the consortium that Wang has always targeted. Luolan suddenly ran to Luocheng at this time. Is he really not afraid of death? Exclamation mark. Wang's closest barrier to Luocheng is only 3 hours away by car. If Wang's army arrives, Luolan's few lives will not be enough to die. The soldier guarding the gate took a look at the wreath Luolan was holding, and saw a simple couplet written on it, "Riding a whale today. When will the crane turn into a crane?" After entering the city, Luolan walked slowly under the gaze of everyone, all the way to the place where Jiangsu had the accident. Because the memorial service had not been held yet, his wreath could only be sent there. As for whether he could attend the memorial service, it depended on whether he was still alive at that time. However, Luolan was too lazy to think about those things now. On weekdays, Luolan dressed very ruffian, and did not look like a big shot of a consortium at all, but more like a big boss in the underworld. But today, Luolan put on a black suit, which made him look particularly solemn and dignified. The news that Luolan arrived in Los Angeles to mourn Jiangsu gradually spread. When Luo Lan walked on the street, everyone would subconsciously keep a distance from him. In the rain, Luo Lan looked forward. He came to the place where Jiang Su had the accident and bowed deeply. Then he said, "Old sir, I have been reading your articles since a long time ago. I have always admired you. I have seen too many dark and gloomy things in the consortium, so I know better than them how difficult it is to stick to the principles you insist on in this world. I know you have a good relationship with Xiaosu. He and I are very good friends, so I am also your junior. If your heroic spirit is still here, please accept my call." However, after Luo Lan finished speaking, he waited for a long time, and the world did not change at all. He finally sighed. It seems that Jiang Su was unwilling to pay attention to him. In fact, the ability of the Hall of Heroes is very cruel to the deceased. It is the rule of heaven and earth that people cannot be resurrected after death, so resurrection will also be punished. In the Hall of Heroes, all heroic spirits must fall into deep sleep when they are not summoned. That is boundless darkness. The only thing left in their lives is to protect the master of the Hall of Heroes. The host of the ability will become stronger and stronger, but this is actually very cruel to people like the heroic spirit who were once alive. Luo Lan once awakened in barrier number 61 and summoned 12 heroic spirits, but they were all old subordinates who had followed him for a long time, and the heroic spirits were willing to become members of the Hall of Valor in order to protect him. Moreover, when the host of the Hall of Valor summons a heroic spirit, it is an equal dialogue. If the other party refuses, the host cannot force the summoning. Luo Lan stared at the flowers all over the street in a daze. He bowed deeply again. "If I am not dead in a few days, I will see you at the memorial service." At this moment, on a high-rise building 400 meters away, a sniper in black was silently observing Luo Lan through the scope. He had a white headset in his ear and said, "You can shoot. You are allowed to shoot." However, at this moment, the sniper suddenly felt a huge force behind him lifting him up. The moment the sniper pulled the trigger, the muzzle of the gun suddenly tilted. The sniper turned around in panic, only to see a young man with a gloomy face holding him in his hands. The sound of sniper rifles rang out, and Luo Lan on the street suddenly looked towards the tall building. When he saw the outline of the young man on the building clearly, his heart was relieved again. Ren Xiaosu came. Just like every time Luo Lan was in a life-or-death situation, the other party would come as promised. Luo Lan stood there and laughed. "Now it's time for us to settle accounts with those evil spirits." Joki said nonchalantly, "You only dare to say that because Ren Xiaosu, the killer, is here. Then what else?" Luo Lan asked back, "I don't feel safe at all when I am protected by you." At the same time, the gunshots not only attracted Luo Lan's attention, but also attracted the attention of the monsters in Luo City. After they found that the sniper's companion was attacked, hundreds of men in black came out of the residential building and surrounded the building in shadows. Update. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.